Hello everybody, back again with another live stream for you guys to enjoy. It's Friday and we have one very drunk panellist, I do know that for sure. Pete Shea's been hammering the old beer. That should be interesting. 9/11, I'm sure we'll get around to talking about that. In fact, it was the only reason that I actually decided to fire the show up, because I thought, who can't do a stream on 9/11 when it was 9/11 that woke me up? And it did, to be honest. 9/11 woke me up, and here we are. So, let's do a few hellos to everybody. Sorry that I've not promoted the show very much, and I just fired it up immediately, so we haven't got that many people in right now, but we have got some. So, hello to YouTube, and hello to Who You, Flat for Life, nice to see you in, and John Jack 653653, nice to see you in, Brandon Toy, Howard Moore, and yes, that's currently all that's in chat, but we do have about 20 people watching right now, so I'm sure as it goes on, the show does get better. So let's see who we have already in the chat right now. We have the one and only Je suis Dodo Pete Shea, and we have Aaron. We have Aaron Morfeld, who's in as well, also known as Face 111. How are you doing, guys?
Way, how you doing, Randy? And
Good,
you're
Randy.
a dirty liar. You said you never spoke French. You couldn't speak French, and you pronounced "Je suis Dodo" perfectly. How you doing? How's everybody on this special day? I guess. In a sense.
Happy anniversary, everybody.
Happy waking up day. Happy waking up day. But the funny thing
is it an unhappy anniversary or a happy anniversary? I would say happy.
Well, do you know? Well, if you really want to go down that rabbit hole, I mean, you know, I'll go down that rabbit hole with you. But let me just tell you, it wasn't actually. It wasn't actually the actual day 9/11 that I woke up. It was some years after, you know, watching some videos about it that made me question things. I think I was like everybody at the time when we saw the original footage and the original story. I was totally brainwashed by it. Totally brainwashed. Yep. Just 100%. You know, I believed it 100%. But the funny thing was, there was just some. I don't know what it was. There was just something about it that just didn't seem right, and I couldn't. It was weird. I couldn't put my finger on it. And then I watched this one video, and it was the way that the buildings fell down. And as soon as I watched the video and I realised that was the key to it, that was the one thing that had always been in the back of my head that I couldn't, that was there, but it just wasn't, my brain wasn't operating enough to accept that at the time. And even though I watched these buildings fall and everything else, you know, it just fell so symmetrically. You know, I mean, I should have seen it straight away. I mean, now you see it straight away, but, you know, back then, I mean, like I say, I was just so brainwashed into it. But as you say, Pete, I mean, you know, is it a happy day to be woken up? Well, I really don't know.
It was.
You got Morpheus.
It was the same for me, Ranty, in about 2008.
About the same time, yeah.
I have no idea why, but 2008 was, well, because of the recession and the mortgage crash. You know, we started looking into money and just government politics, all this crap. And Alex Jones pops up, these videos pop up, and I wasn't ready for it. But when I watched it, right, and you see the collapse, and they call it the pancake theory. So every floor fell on the floor below it, right? Mm. Well, those floors were held up by a center column of, like, it was like 30 by 60 or something like that, 30 by 50 of concrete embedded steel. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. And so, okay, cool. Go with the pancake, which I believed up until that point, right? Yeah, well, they collapsed. You know, we had arguments with my friends. We're drunk and drinking, like, oh, fucking terrorists, you know, all this crap. But then if you think about it, you watch the video and you say, where's the center column, right? That's what held up the whole building. All them
where's the spine?
All them floors and the outside skin. The outside skin was thin metal just to hold up the outside of the floor. It wasn't
that thin. It wasn't that thin. I mean, I don't think I don't think a plane made of aluminium could go through it like the way that they showed it. I mean, it just got absorbed by the building. The plane, it was like an absorber tower. It just absorbed it.
So hang on, that was an early question, right? So what happened to central column, especially maybe early doors looking at the conspiracy?
Well, we found out what happened.
2020, 19 years later, Aaron, what happened to central?
We found out what happened. Pete, we found out what happened. They had work people in there for the pre 6 months or 7 months or so, and apparently they were renovating the elevators
shaft or something,
and they were there every night when nobody was there, so nobody was working, nobody was in the building except for this maintenance crew that were repairing the elevators, if you call it repairing. But listen, at the end of the day, there's no way we can talk too much about this because it's a very sensitive situation for the bots. But I have no problem in generalizing it and saying that yes, well, if you was to be a conspiracy theorist, you could argue that these teams of people that went in during the night in the months leading up to 9/11 could have been doing nefarious things, could have been weakening the structure, could have been implanting perhaps some kind of explosive devices to bring down the building in a perfectly symmetrical drop just into its own footprint. Yeah, I mean that you could argue that as if you was a conspiracy theorist. But I mean, here on Ranty show, Ranty Flat Earth show, we absolutely believe in the mainstream event. We believe here the mainstream narrative. Story. Yes, those planes did in fact bring those buildings down without a shadow of a doubt. Those fires that raged through the 2 or 3 floors that they were erupting on totally caused the entire collapse into the entire footprint of all the buildings and brought down building 7.
And also Arabic.
What have you done with my mate Shane?
Arabic passports, Ranty, because we're playing flip flop, right? We're playing I love the flip flop. Let's do it. I'm gonna get me an Arabic passport. They're fireproof, explosion proof, bomb proof, and they always land at the feet of the FBI.
Yeah, I mean, it was just. I mean, who would have thought? I mean, if you was a conspiracy theorist, you could actually argue that maybe it was some kind of planted evidence. But here on Ranty Flat Earth channel, we go by the mainstream narrative, and we believe that this was a fireproof, bomb-proof passport that survived the impact, the raging inferno, and, like you say, happily landed at the foot of an FBI officer. Yeah.
Happily flew out of the pocket of the alleged terrorist who was never found. Yeah, they were never found, and so that's
why I'm afraid of terrorists. Disintegrated. Their passport didn't.
That's why I'm afraid of terrorists, because it's really, really magical, kind of,
Well, see, y'all just don't understand gravity and how it works on bodies and passports. But anyway, can I put a wrinkle in your mainstream narrative?
You can try to wrinkle it if you like, by all means.
Those buildings were built in such a way where the center was the strongest part, right? So they just had the outline and skeleton and the lighter structure, floor structures going out, pans, which were filled with concrete, but that was the lighter still. The inner core, where the elevator shafts were the strongest part of the building, and it extended out from there. So if you go with the pancake theory, I'm fine with that. Like, I'm easy to sell stuff to, but you can't pancake that inner structure. It's not possible. It would still be standing there. It would still be standing there today if no one took it down piece by piece.
Well, Aunt Jemima doesn't exist today, right? She's pancake.
Right, so Ian Adams says, no notification. He's got an angry face. I am sorry about that there was no notification. But to be fair to YouTube, and I will give them their dues right here, I fired it up within 5 minutes. It's not like I'd planned this all day. I literally, just a few minutes ago, decided to do the stream and set it to the next available setting, which was 5 minutes after. So I'm pretty sure that they wouldn't have had time to fire any notifications out. I could be wrong, but you know, that's
well, I'd like to correct Rakia. According to NIST, the National Institute of Scientific Assholery, the pancake theory and of a total collapse works out because there was a fire on 3 floors. So
I'd forgotten about the fires.
Yeah.
Oh, somebody says something very, very, very interesting in the chat. So, pear-shaped, a guest in the chat says, I worked in the Twin Towers every second week before the towers collapsed. The week before they collapsed were not searched by the dogs, and we weren't allowed to use the freight elevators. How interesting.
Well, the dogs were off that week, and the freight elevators were being modified. So
yeah, I think what happened, if I believe the mainstream narrative, I believe what happened was the dogs got scared because there was some cats outside, so they refused to go into the building because they were scared of the cats. And the reason the freight elevators weren't working is because they didn't have any freight deliveries for that. Well, nobody was allowed to use it because they didn't have any freight deliveries due for the next few weeks. So they decided to put them in a lockdown situation so that people weren't able to use them. Yeah.
They brought in those animal experts to prove that the dogs were scared. I remember that.
Yes.
And also late freight deliveries. Right?
And also, Rakia, I mean, what a good way to measure gravity, right? When you have an actual building falling at free fall speed, I mean, I can confirm, 9.8 meters per second squared.
Well,
just
as an
by
average,
the video alone, yeah.
If you average both buildings that fell on that day for the first time in history due to airplane strikes, the gravity worked perfectly. Well, fires, yeah. Sorry about that. I get confused.
You guys know those buildings are designed to take airplane strikes. World War II.
Get out of here!
They were actually. They were designed to take airplanes.
Hang on, who told us that, SE? Who told us that?
You get out of here, SE.
Engineers for 9/11 Truth told us that.
Yeah, but hang on, who told us that, man? Here we are 19 years later, so we're all seasoned conspiracy investigators. We don't need to go through the day one
Pete, I heard this years and years and years ago that they were designed to take an impact from a plane. Yeah, that's true.
The guy who designed it or something said that.
That's right. It was actually designed.
Story page.
Do you know it was actually designed?
Then we were fed the visuals.
It was actually designed to take 2 impacts by 2 planes. It was actually that's what it was designed to do.
Ranty, you have to understand. You're not accounting for the amount of jet fuel.
Yes, of course. The jet fuel that can burn at around about 900 degrees that actually melted the steel that took 2,300 degrees to burn. But of course, those office fires definitely do get hot. I mean, I've been in a couple of fires. I've actually saved people from fires. I'm not going to talk about it, because do you know something? If I talk about this shit, somebody's going to just make some bullshit up about me, and I'm just sick of it. But yes, I have actually been in fires before, and it is hot. Trust me. Right, I had my eyebrows burnt off. I had my hair burnt to little balls. It had little knobbing balls on the top of my head. All the hairs on my hands and up my arms were all just the same. It had just gone back to a little crispy ball at the bottom, and it was very hot.
Let me get this right, Ranty. So your consensus is fire is hot.
Fire is definitely hot. Now I don't know whether or not. So this is my claim. This is my claim that fire is hot.
Wow.
And it's also my claim that water.
Mind blown, dude.
Water is wet. Water is wet. That is all my old. Actually, I stole that from Professor Phil Bell last night, who said this on the stream. Water is wet. Now, does that make me a scientist? Because I actually turn around and say that fire is hot. So does that put me on the same level as Professor Phil Bell?
You're an academic
genius. Yes, genius. I am an absolute genius, I've got to say.
You're in the wrong business. business. You need to be just teaching it the
Hang on,
the highest
hang on,
level.
man. You've got to be your own Sherlock Holmes with all of this and understand that the story and the narrative is fed to us. Now, that's why I asked Aaron. Aaron, in reality, what took care of the spine of the Twin Towers? What happened?
Pete, I hate to tell you this, brother, but it's Friday.
They
We're all
cut
taking a
it.
piss, and you're being way too serious.
No, man. Hang on, Dave. You're an American. This day,
Yeah,
19
but
years
even I'm
ago.
taking a piss
Hang on,
out of it.
man.
Like, it's
Hang
Friday,
on,
bro.
man.
Relax a
Hang
little
on,
bit.
please. Hang on, please. You just made a statement there. You're an American. This day, 19 years ago, right? As the official story goes, your country suffered the most severe and austere loss in history, right? From a foreign attack.
Did it,
Now,
Pete?
we all
Did
know
it
that it
really?
was all
Yeah,
fake,
did
right?
it?
We all, hang on, please. Let me finish. Come on, man. Let me say, we all know it was fake. And just as Ranty said earlier on, 9/11 was the biggest transforming event of my time. And it's okay to joke about it, but I also think we should take it seriously as well, because either 3,000 people died or they didn't. And if they didn't, people like me who've been talking about people not dying for the last 10 years,
Well,
need to be justified in some sense.
that's
You know what I
just your
mean?
conspiracy.
Yeah.
That's just your conspiracy mind.
Pete.
Here on rantyflatearth.com's channel, we all believe, as real believers do, that the official narrative is the true narrative. Only conspiracy theorists believe what you've just said, Pete.
Pete, there was exactly
I saw it on
I'm
TV.
thinking in that mold, Ranty, because I'm here on your channel.
There was exactly, Pete,
I
there was
saw it on
exactly
TV.
2,931 people that died. You can look it up, Pete.
Yes,
Okay.
there we go. See? Anyway, as for a story that was asked me before, a question by Pete, actually, he asked me before, he turned around and said, would you, when this woke you up, this event woke you up, was it a good thing for you or a bad thing for you? I genuinely think a bit like Morpheus, with the Matrix, when that guy that's offered to go back to sleep and forget everything. Do you want to get plugged back into the Matrix and forget what you know?
Right.
And God, blimey! I mean, that's such a tough question. It's so easy to be a glober.
It's the juicy steak, Ranty. The guy with the juicy steak.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. It is.
Would you do it?
Well, I don't know, Pete. I mean, would you? There you go. See,
but listen, it's a general question.
Once you're woken up,
was your life better knowing? Is it a comfortable lie? Is that more convenient for you, or is it an inconvenient truth? Now, I've thought about this. Let me just say this, right? And it's a question for everybody. Imagine, right, that you had the perfect woman, the perfect partner in your life, and you lived according to your own thoughts, the perfect life, and everything was true and pure. But what you didn't know was that every time your wife, girlfriend, etc., all the way up was going to the gym on a Thursday night, and I can actually relate to this in terms of family story in a
you're
sense.
projecting, Pete.
She was going to meet her lover. So in effect, you lived a lie. Now, would you rather, right, cut that at the quick, realize the lie as soon as possible, and then take it where it goes? That's even death and beyond. Or would you live that comfortable lie knowingly? And you're making that. Let me just finish. You're making that choice, looking down on both of these choices, if you understand.
Well, Pete, you're talking about
No,
hindsight.
I'll take the truth, thanks. I'll go
Yeah,
back and do everything over again.
I would as well.
Okay.
I would.
Well, let me put it this way. So before I was sort of like awakened to all the different conspiracies. So I mean, 9/11 was one thing. Moved on to chemtrails. Moved on to a whole bunch of other things. Finally ended up on flat Earth. So. Obviously, I had a much easier life back then. I had a real. You must know, doing what I do, and have done for the past since the chemtrails video started, which was what would have been 10 years ago or something. So all of that, my activism started at least probably 10 years ago. My life, as soon as I became an activist, changed completely from what I had already known. So you can say that, yes, I do enjoy doing what I'm doing with the research and doing these shows, undoubtedly. But on the other side of the coin, you also miss out on a lot of other things, which would be like socializing with your friends, going out, playing pool, playing, hanging out,
and drinking 5 drinks down in a row on the bed.
hanging out with your mates. You know what I mean? All that kind of cool stuff that you used to enjoy. You know, so you do sacrifice that. You know,
hanging out with new mates.
Yeah, all that stuff that only gets you into trouble.
So you do meet new mates.
Hang on, Ranty. People don't know that after you downed all those drinks, you went off with the ugliest bird in the pub.
Ranty, once one of your mates or somebody knows like what you think, because you might have mentioned something, right, of your awakening, my eye opening. I opened my eyes. You know, once they know that, they judge me, right? So every time I do go to the bar with them or hang out with them, before. I always felt this judgment, like, oh, he's fucking weird, right? and you get rid of it. I get rid of those people, man.
I told my mate, I must have a really good, close knit bunch of friends, because when I told them about this, probably, I don't know, maybe 3 years. Well, I talked about chemtrails. Didn't talk about flat Earth to them until about 3 years ago. But they don't judge me. We probably, every time I go out with them, which isn't very often recently, I've only been out probably half a dozen times in the past 5 years or something. So very infrequently. But then I also have
times in 5 years.
Sorry.
Half a dozen times in 5 years.
Yeah, that's about the only the amount of times that I've actually been out socialising, drinking, hanging out with my mates. Yeah.
How can they remain mates then for that long?
Well, it's not just we stay in contact on Facebook and stuff like that, and I have employed them as when they've needed work for decorating and stuff. So I've employed them to be labourers working with me and stuff. So we sort of like hung out in that way as well.
And you never went for a drink after work?
No. Sadly, no, because there was so many other things that I had to do, with the channel, not just on this, but going back for Nathan's and stuff and doing his shows and just.
And that's getting an honours degree as well, man.
I did.
Jesus.
Yeah, been busy boy. But anyway, listen, let's not divert from the point. The times that I have been out with
Funky Friday.
So the times that I've been out with him, and also we talk at work and stuff. I'll bring them in to do some days work and what have you. They don't give me any shit over it. We actually talk about it, and we'll debate it for maybe half an hour on the night out or during the day, and then I leave them with thinking about something till the next time we meet. In fact, one of my friends, I actually think he's probably one of the trolls that, not literally one of the trolls, but he says the same sort of things that the trolls would say. So I said to him, have you ever seen Water Curve? And he says, yeah, a raindrop. I thought, oh boy, you have been listening to these.
Here we go.
You've been listening to these globe heads, and I just knew when he said that. I just thought nobody is just going to come out instantly with that answer unless they've been trolling flat Earth.
They're priorly informed.
Priorly informed, yeah.
Funny enough.
That was one of my first responses. Also, was the raindrop.
Let me just say, I was just thinking about that very thing today, a raindrop. So let me just say, I was going to look, and I will look on YouTube for slow motion rain falling, and if rain actually falls in drops, I think it doesn't quite fall in drops, and it's only when it encounters sort of big resistance that we'll appreciate the drop. But it's interesting to think about.
Pete, I would like to ask you, what shape does a raindrop take when it hits the ground?
Well, it's interesting, right? Listen, listen, hang on, please. As a flat earth, let me answer that in this way, right? As a flat earther, right? So everything has to be viewed in a different sense. Have you ever seen the very, very light rain, the thin mist?
Yes,
it's there.
First rain is a very mist-like rain.
Right.
It's hard to avoid even with an umbrella. Other times
right.
the rain falls down in those tear-shaped droplets. They're that big. Sometimes
right, Jim.
They're all varied sizes depending on the conditions.
Right. So my point is, as it's falling, a tear droplet will appear to us in a certain way. But if it's an accumulation on the way down of all of these little, that's why I use the term particulates, water. Jim, answer me this question. Water droplet, or anyone else, How many times, if you have the finest razor imaginable, can you cut that water droplet into until it stops being a water droplet that's always capable of being cut in two again with a finer razor?
Do not have the tendency to have a surface that's like, cuttable, because it displaces around the object that's attempting to cut it. I don't care if it's a knife or a thin razor. That's fantasy. I don't play with fantasy.
Okay, you don't play with fantasy. Hang on, so you don't play with fantasy. You play with reality. How do clouds, Jim? How do clouds hold a form?
Pete, before we go on this with you and Jim,
hang on, please. Hang on, Aaron. Let me just get that question out to Jim because we have a history here. Jim, if you don't play with fantasy,
we're talking about surface tension and all stuff. It's okay. But
Aaron, shut the fuck up, please.
Listen, before we get on that, I have a question for you, Pete. I have a question for you.
Shut up, Aaron.
Okay.
Jim, let me ask you a question, and I was going to shut up then. And Aaron will just continue here because he has another agenda here.
Okay, Pete, one sec. Pete, one sec. One sec. Before you get, I think Aaron's right. Before you get into this, let's at least finish our.
I've got a quick story I want to drop in before Pete starts.
Please let me just say one thing, Paige, to Jim. And he talks about not dealing in fantasy when I got us to imagine cutting a raindrop in two and trying to get to the bottom or the root of it. Let me just finish, Aaron, and stop fucking frustrating me, man.
Finish, Aaron, and then it'll be over.
Okay.
Right. Jim, my question was, and it's pertinent as well, when we move away from fantasy, as you call it, clouds, which are made from raindrops, Jim, how do they maintain a form? How does water maintain a form? That would be my question. I was done then, but shithead Aaron fucking had to keep.
Anyway, I love you, Pete.
I'm chilling out with a few drinks and a few smokes as well on this special day, 9/11. So thank you.
I love you, Pete. I love you. It's okay.
Right. Well, don't piss me off.
In my book, when it's in the gaseous state,
slap you upside the head.
It's gaseous. If they're tiny droplets, they're physical. They are in a matter form. They are liquid, even though they're tiny droplets. They have different.
You're talking about the shapes of the clouds, Jim. Form of the clouds.
Low pressure, high pressure.
But how are these magnificent forms of the clouds hold their shape if they're composed of water vapor?
I have a question for Pete. Ranty, whenever you're ready.
And Jim, answer that, please. And if you need more time, Jim, that's fair enough, man.
Well, one thing is like, it might sound like it's not related, but it is. It's called entailment. If, you're in the shower and you run the water in the shower head, the curtains try to suck in on you. Some people think it's because of the heat and cold difference on either side of the curtain. But it's not.
One of the flat. Okay, thank you, Jim.
Yeah.
One of the flat.
Let him finish, Pete.
Water is
let him finish, Pete. No, let him finish. No, Pete, let him finish. No, let him finish. Let him finish. You asked him a question. Let him finish. He hasn't. Let him finish.
Okay.
But you always have the adage that high moves to a low, and when there's low pressure, the air can hold less water vapor.
Right.
It condenses.
We always talk about what.
It's surrounded
by
pressure in front and behind, all around by a bell shape, depending on, what's around it as a high pressure, the form it'll take in part.
As flat earthers, we talk about water as a proof of flat earth because it always takes the path of least resistance.
As liquid, yes.
Yes, in liquid form, but in vapor form, which we know as a puddle evaporates, it's just a transformation from one form to the other. Are you telling me the intrinsic, inherent properties of water in its liquid form that we know well suddenly transmogrify?
Like
hang on, let me finish my question, please. Whoever's talking. I have no earphones as well, so I just know someone is talking, but I don't know who's talking. Oh, let me just finish my. Are you telling me, Jim, that the properties of water somewhat transmogrify when they go from the liquid to the vapor stage, where they can't hold a shape in liquid form, but they can hold sometimes immaculate shapes in vapor form, just right above our heads?
No, in vapor form, they're gas. When you're starting to see clouds, you're seeing
droplets.
Guys,
this is a general chat show, right? Y'all can jump over to general chat.
I actually got on
shut
just
the fuck up and leave at least Jim answer.
Yeah. Well, water has a weak ionic bond that it shares with in a chain, kind of. It's OH and H, and these bonds are very weak, essentially.
How does it adhere to a certain form, Jim? How does it
Well,
adhere to a certain form as the clouds do?
It's because of gravity, Pete. Do you understand?
Asking Jim, though.
Is classed as a mobile liquid. So it doesn't matter if it's gasoline or kerosene or water. Any mobile liquid has basically the same properties.
It has weight as well. Water has weight, Jim. So what keeps the thousands of pounds of clouds in situ?
Yeah. 1
Paige,
cubic
did you have a
cc
story,
of
Paige?
water is 1 gram. 1,000 cubic cc's of water is exactly a kilo at 72 degrees at sea level.
Jim, we live in an electrified environment.
Gee whiz, Pete, come on,
where
Paige,
there's a constant sort of frequency in play in situ.
Yes, I do.
Okay,
But
I'll shut up now. Sorry about that, Paige, and our
Right. Okay. Let's get some order here. Let's get some order here. Right, guys.
Thank you,
Listen,
Andy.
this line of questioning about a raindrop. I mean, I just don't understand where it's going. Can you just make your point, Pete, and then we'll move on? Can you just make what it is that you're trying to say?
Absolutely. Every time I speak, the whole conversation always seems to be rushed in me, and I always have to fight somebody. But the conversation here was in regards to what Jim was talking about specifically when I was talking about the water droplet being cut in half with the finest razor imaginable to us. Water is an inherent elemental thing, right? And yeah, we do live in an electrified environment, and what keeps the clouds in place, in situ, in their formation is a prevailing force, and I'm going to say ether, and I know that Jim hates ether.
I simply have a different interpretation and definition of it. Like,
which can be
everybody considers
discussed on
ether a
another
material in of its own. I figure it's a combination of all these different frequencies and energies and how they interact, and that's the mystery of the ether.
Why can't it just be evaporation of the water, forming up in particulates until it gets heavy and falls back down? Why can't it be as simple as that?
Because Essie, water, would you agree, has no sort of, how would you put it? It offers no resistance. Anything that it encounters, it'll make its way around. And that includes water itself of a different temperature. So when that water evaporates into the clouds, and we all know, especially you would know in Canada, the magnificence of the clouds and the shapes and the formations. If you've been paying attention as Montreal, you would have noticed that these formations are repeating. But that goes against our very understanding and the very basis of our argument for a flat Earth, or one argument for a flat Earth, which is water always maintains its level.
So what's your idea of the clouds, Pete?
We have to explain how that water above does not
get to the nitty-gritty. What are you saying?
Anyone listening would understand what I was saying. You cut me off.
The water got up there in the first place by evaporating off the surface.
Yes.
Why does it not maintain its level?
As a gas. So if it recombines, it becomes water again. It's secondary.
Oh my! I have a question.
Why does water not maintain its level up above as below?
I have a question for Pete about 9/11.
Am I being difficult here?
Yes, Pete, because it's in a different form, Pete. It's not in a water, it's in a cloud form.
Yes,
it's in a gaseous state, Pete.
Okay, SE Montreal, let me explain it clearly. Water, right, in its evaporated form is still water.
Yes, correct, yes.
But it's different.
But it's in a different form, Pete.
It's a gas.
It's a gas. It rises. It goes up.
From your kettle adhering to a certain form.
Won't the gas from your kettle?
I don't know what to call your state here to hold down the conversation and go round and round, but this is going nowhere, Pete.
It's not. Hang on, Pete. This is not going round and round at all.
The states of water that we commonly say this is accepted.
Hang on, Jim. Hang on. You're being disingenuous, and everyone's been disingenuous.
Okay, well, I want to listen. I want to spend no more than the next 5 minutes on this subject, and then we're going to move on. So
let me continue then, Ranty, and say everyone's been disingenuous.
Please, can I tell my story?
If you're a flat earther, right, the universe is after being taken away from you. So when the clouds or the moon, our nearest neighbors, are looked at with new eyes, right, then we apply the basic principles of our understanding from the earth, right, to the sky. If water will always find its level, it will offer no resistance, then water vapor needs must does the same. If it doesn't, there's another interfering factor in play. It's a necessary logical
You can apply the same logic for
What,
water
like
and
what, Pete?
gas,
What? Be more
nitrogen,
specific.
oxygen in the air. Pete,
2020
Do you agree with
basic.
that? Do you agree with that, Paige? What I just said?
Okay, well, listen. Now that you've brought, listen.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Pete. I was.
I tell you what we'll
doing
do.
something else.
Listen.
I didn't actually hear.
Listen. I tell you what we're going to do. We'll have I don't know. We'll maybe set an hour aside on a different day to talk about this.
But let me before you do, Randy. Do you agree with what I just said?
Can I agree with Pete, and then we can move on?
Everybody.
Can I Englishize what Pete's trying to say so we can move on, and maybe Pete can get some justification?
Yeah,
I agree with.
hand. You know what I'm talking about.
I agree So what Pete's trying to say with the cutting of the water, we're always going to have water, right? The way water is, that liquidy droplet, you'll always have that. Now he's saying if that form always finds level, how do you put it up in a cloud and have it make a cloud? That's what, and I agree completely. Like there has to be something else. So, and again, not for right now, but I get that's what that's what I think.
Hold on a second. If you're cutting water into smaller pieces and stuff, there's a point where it no longer can maintain level. I mean, depending on the conditions, it has a surface tension.
Oh, come on, guys, man. You have a kettle. It's boiling, right? You have steam. You put a steel plate over it. The water accumulates and it falls back down. Are you guys serious or what?
And when you wash your car, what do you have? You have beads of water, right? You're going to cut the beads of water in half and half and half and half on your car? And try to figure out, some fantastic new science for it?
I have a question for Pete.
Hang on, please. Jim,
Pete, did you understand what I just said, Pete?
SC Montreal, you're missing the point here. And I don't want to be fucking raising my voice here. It's not the point that the water rises up and falls down. I'm talking about the clouds and the particular formation, the forms that they take, right? With all of the beautiful, castles,
they follow
the
path of least resistance upward, displacing, lighter air above them.
Well, that's a possibility, Jim, as an answer. But that's why I asked you, do we live in an electrified environment?
Yeah, what about it's all electrical energy of one form or another.
Right, so everything is about vibration. So these clouds adhere to a specific pattern because in a cymatic sense, they are...
We're right back just to the, we're in a creation, and that's the way it works. The clouds are
probably. It's about you open... It's about you open to that
the stars
a possibility.
They make the stars all make certain sounds, frequencies.
Right. That's why light doesn't exist. Light is an effect. It's what we see with our eyes, our naked eyes.
We see every number of stars. You take a laser, refract it through some water and off the surface, and you got like 50 or 1,000. So even though we're seeing multiple lights, some of them could be several, reflections from the same light source.
Aristarchus, Jim. You've arrived at Aristarchus, the central source.
Always been there, or at least,
Right.
I know we're looking at a local phenomena light, not things that are billions of miles away radiating this wonder light all the way through all time, and their stars are dead now and we're seeing light from a dead star. All that bullshit is out the window.
Jim. As flat earthers then, Jim, we know the ground is flat and stationary. Something is fucking moving and something is confining us. There has to be a container.
Okay, now,
hang on, Jim.
Look,
there is a container, Jim. Hang on, Jim.
Listen, does light move? Is it heavy? Does the spotlight turning around and around have any weight to it?
It moves. The spotlight moves, Jim.
It appears to move. The light.
Right, it has to move.
There's no physicality really moving along.
It depends on the observer's point of view. Are you the one who's turning the spotlight, Are you the little ant who's looking up at the dome ceiling at the spotlight reflection?
Hey, Pete, do you think
Peter, are you
there's gonna
just
be
arguing just for argument's sake today, bro, or
No,
what?
no,
What's
SE
up with you?
Montreal. I asked you a direct question earlier on. You couldn't fucking answer it.
Ask it
And
to
we
me,
had the
man.
last
I'm
time
right
with the
here.
extended mirror
Stop
water layer.
gibber
You couldn't
jabbering. What?
extend your
What's your
mind to
question?
understanding it.
What's your
Pete,
question?
Pete, do you think there's going to be like some other event here in 2020?
Where's the fucking passion in people? Where's the questions
What do you
in
think
people?
about that?
And movement, like if you ever seen a
I'm
strobe,
waiting
like
for my turn to talk.
Sorry, Paige. I beg your pardon. I'm going to go on mute specifically for
People
Paige
are
to
here,
speak. I'm
Pete.
sorry,
We
Paige.
are here.
the old record players had a strobe that you'd center your speed with. If it was too slow or too fast, there was a thing that appeared to be turning well to the right or to the left, and when it was at the perfect speed, it made a
Jimbo,
straight line.
you're making me dizzy, Jimbo.
It's an illusion.
I'm dizzy.
You don't know what you're looking at when you're looking at lights. Our eyes play tricks on us.
That's right. Neither do you, neither does Pete. Let's move on. Paige.
Please forgive me, Paige. Thank you, Jim. Please forgive me, Paige. Just a brief interjection, just to comment on what, which is what I meant to say to begin with. As flat earthers, we know there's a divide. So what's all important, Jim, is the contour, the shape, the nature of that divide, that barrier. And if it's a reflective screen, we know how differing mirroring reflection from a planar mirror will express as opposed to a contoured, concave, convex, etc. mirror. So sorry, Paige, off you go. And I beg your pardon to anyone. I don't mean to frustrate.
That's all right. I was just going to tell you guys what happened to me yesterday when I went down the street. I had to go to the chemist to get some naprogesic, and I got there just as they were opening, and there was a man that looked sort of 55, 60 talking to what looked like to be a married couple, another man and woman. And he turned around, he saw me come around the corner, and he's looking at me with like, you know, his eyes sort of squinted up. And I get close enough to him and he goes, "Where's your mask?" And I went, "What?" He goes, "Your mask, where's your mask?" And I said, "What for?" And he goes, "Oh," and he turns around, he goes to the other people, "See, they just say, 'What for?'" And I said, "I've got a medical exemption." And he turned his back on me, huffed, puffed, went into the chemist. I went in, sat down, and it must have gotten too much for him. And he finally turned around and said, "Well, what's your medical exemption then?" And I said, "Well, for one, common sense. And for two, it's called hypoxia. If you restrict the oxygen intake in any human being, they will suffer from hypoxia." And the woman that he'd been standing with had walked in to the chemist and was standing a little bit far behind. And I heard her turn to her husband and go, "Oh, hypoxia." And then after the other guy left, she came up to me and she goes, "Oh, my daughter's been having really hard time wearing these masks, you know, at work all day. She's getting dizzy and having headaches and all this kind of stuff." And I said, "Yeah, tell her hypoxia, that's all she has to do. She can be medically exempt from wearing one for this reason." And the lady was so happy. And I just thought, you poor bugger. Like, you imagine how many people are suffering all day long wearing these masks when they don't have to.
And that's only one problem wearing a mask all the time when you don't need one can give you.
Only one.
More serious.
I'll give you a
God,
math
I wish
story
I could
here.
figure out how to turn my camera around to show you this view. I'm sitting outside and it's absolutely gorgeous out here.
Show us, Paige. And actually, Paige, when you were talking about that story there, I thought the guy was going to come up to you and said, when he saw you without a mask, and he saw your full face, your full features, the full depth of your eyes. You're a flat earther, aren't you?
Yeah, I go to Tractor
Supply. Gives me the camera facing towards me, not the one facing away. Oh, hang on, there we go.
So I go to this place every day, like, and pick up stuff with no mask, right? And I walk in, and the lady was like, "No mask," and I was like, "No, I don't wear one." And she was just like, she's been seeing me there like almost every day for 2 years, and she was just like, "Okay, I won't ask again."
Yeah, I usually get
So
asked
what is
once,
dry steam?
the first time I go in somewhere, and then they don't bother again.
Let me just say, in the shop across the road, it's like a sort of petrol gas station, right? But I know a sort of a girl just in there. But not only was everyone wearing masks, we weren't wearing masks, and she works there. But we hugged upon seeing one another. So that was an absolute shock to everyone.
Today I took
Can you imagine being a teenager at the moment and trying
Paige,
to
isn't it?
find the love of your life? And, you know, they've even got signs now out in parks and stuff where if it's a narrow walkway, the sign will say, look away from anyone that you pass. Look away. Like, my God. Don't even look at somebody now. What the fuck?
Right, listen, guys. Hold on.
More women's arses as they're after passing me by, man.
Right, listen. So Rob Keane has asked me to look into one of these videos. I'm going to put it on. It's only a minute, so I am sharing it. But that is hilarious. Don't look at anyone. Yeah. Don't even walk in the footsteps. You know?
I wish I was a pixie.
Don't look at this video. You might get COVID from it. So listen, but look away.
Okay, so this is a 1 minute video. Let's give it a play anyway, and let's see what it is that that it means. So here we go. I don't know, so I'm learning as good as you. So if you want to watch it in the Discord, I'm playing it right now. Here we go.
So what is dry steam vapor cleaning and sanitizing? As with most cleaning projects, it starts with water. Let's take a look at how water becomes dry steam vapor. When water is heated under pressure to a high enough temperature, that superheated state becomes dry steam vapor, creating an extremely powerful cleaning tool.
Don't forget to laugh.
A cleaning and sanitizing tool that works without the use of harmful chemicals and uses very little moisture. It is the only technology that can penetrate the micropores on stainless steel. Dry steam vapor particles, 6/10,000ths of a micron in size, penetrate all of the hard-to-reach cracks and crevices, removing stubborn dirt, degreasing, and killing bacteria and other microorganisms instantly, leaving behind a surface that is clean, dry, sanitized, and free from chemical residue.
I'm sorry, but that wasn't dry. There's just no way it's that.
I was just gonna say that. There's no way.
He's got moisture. Dry. He's got moisture on his fingers. When he says he wipes his fingers here, you can see the reflection of the water on his fingers. You know, that's indicative of a lie. You know, so that is definitely not.
Much more from mainstream, do we?
That is definitely not dry.
That's a cheap little machine. You should see some machines that are the size of cars, like almost stainless steel, and this is nothing.
I had to serve a mute Pete because he was talking. So during that, so let's unmute him. Hope he was
sorry about
a hot mic. You had a hot mic, mate. You had a hot mic.
I didn't. I'm sorry about that. Because no one was talking when you said you were going to play what you were playing. I wasn't looking at that, so I just thought that you server muted everybody. So sorry about that.
No, it's alright. Listen, so I think the important part of this is this part here. So let me play it again so that you can hear what he says again. Here we go.
It is the only technology that can penetrate the micropores on stainless steel. Dry steam vapor particles, 6/10,000ths of a micron in size.
What was that? Let me read it again.
Micron in size.
6/10,000ths of a micron.
Of a micron in size.
Oh, I keep missing it.
No freaking
particles,
way.
6/10,000ths of a micron in size.
6/10,000ths of a micron.
Yeah.
6/10,000ths of a micron, Pete. What have you got to say about that? There we go. He's run away.
Okay, no, I'm very sorry about that. When I click on your live on Discord, I'm sure it must be the same for most people. The Discord is sometimes slow at loading up, and I go into the YouTube channel. But hang on, what's he talking about there? What's the ultimate point that water has a certain sort of molecular confine? Is that what the ultimate point is? And it's not going to. It's going to penetrate every other confine.
Yeah,
6/10,000ths of a micron.
penetrable on
Yeah,
everything else.
Yeah, 6/10,000ths of a micron. I believe that's pretty small, Pete.
Sure. Okay, hang on. So hang on, please. I'd get a fuller grasp on that if I saw the proper context. What's your ultimate point in playing that? Is that water can get into any spaces?
No, my ultimate point in playing it was that Rob Keane, who's often comes on the show, he asked me to play it for you specifically.
Okay.
For you specifically, and for you to answer this yourself. I mean, you wanted to know, I think, how small these droplets go. Well, 6, whatever it was, it was very small anyway.
So
6/1000ths of a micron.
Perfect question, Ranty. So again, I don't know nothing about this. I just saw a 10-second clip there on your main YouTube channel. But Rob Killen, whoever he is, what creates those
Keen, it's Keen. Rob Keane.
Killen, rather.
Keen.
Okay.
Heat and pressure.
Keen. Well, it says it's
please.
Keen.
I'm an engineer by qualification, right? So there has to be some sort of mechanism which disperses or separates the water in it, like your shower head, right? So there is. So that's my question to him, and this is why I included it, which Jim found ridiculous. If you could get down to separation, if you had the finest razor blade possible to cut the finest sliver of water possible, how far could you go? My answer would be that you can never. Water is elemental, right? So we fail beyond that point.
Yeah.
We can't get to those levels. Whereas Rob Killen is just
elemental.
saying, right.
Well, here's a few details about water. So now you've seen live steam or the superheated steam or the dry steam. Now, that happens well below 600 degrees. If you take red hot steel, a pipe, and drop water into it, it separates into hydrogen and oxygen. The hydrogen rises, the oxygen sinks.
Right. But the steel involved, Jim. Don't forget the steel. And don't tell me what steel is.
With the steam cleaner, there's steel involved in heating coils and elements and pressurized vessels.
So what's in steel? Imagine it was potassium, Jim.
Then you're looking at endo or exochemical reactions.
How would you measure it then, Jim? At that moment of interaction, that moment of occurrence, which is all there is right now. How would you measure it? And you agree with me, Jim. The light entails or needs 2 components. You know what they are, right, Jim?
Light, you have to have matter and energy to create light.
Right, exactly. So the form of energy, the form of matter are all important. Electricity is the pervading force in a lot of these, but not the only force.
Okay,
right?
Now I'll give you a nature example of light being generated by a small creature. It's called a mantis shrimp.
Sure.
And it eats basically hermit crabs. Now, hermit crabs hide in the hardened shells of abandoned from snails and stuff. They're extremely hard. Now, these little mantis shrimp have tiny little hammers, one on each side, a right and a left. And they, come upon their dinner, and they smash the hell out of the shell that the hermit crab is hiding in, and then they have their dinner. But the key point is here that every time they smash with their hammer, they generate light.
Right.
What
did they smash with their hammer through, Jim? What did they smash with their hammer through?
The home of the hermit crab.
It's water, right, Jim?
Yes, absolutely.
So this goes back to what I'm saying, is that there's no such thing as light. Light is an effect. It's about the initial energy.
I agree. People don't understand the nature of light and its creation, how it's generated. So we're right back round and round. If people don't get light absorption and how secondary emission is the light, you can go to Scientific American, read some good articles on it. Anywhere you can find some of it's pretty.
So, Jim, why do you hate ether? Why do you hate ether, Jim?
I don't hate ether. The concept of ether for me is sort of more encompassing, where people want to consider it now as some type of independent thing and an entity of its own. It's all the waves, all the frequencies,
I'm
how
talking
they
about people,
blend,
Jim. You're talking to
interact.
Pete Shea here.
I don't care.
Don't pretend. Hang on, you should
Ether
care
with the
because
A
whoever's
was
listening
named
here,
after the
we've spoken for
chemical
5
ether,
years, me and Jim.
diethyl
One
ether,
at a
because of the
time.
properties of ether. So where
What
does the word
properties?
aether come from? It comes from ethyl ether, the chemical, because of some of its properties,
We're
which
talking
are
about the
wildly
idea of ether,
explosive
not the
and
properties.
mysterious.
The
So
idea of ether, Jim. The old prevailing.
Comes from
Come on,
the
Jim.
chemical lab and ether. So
Jim.
how it got to where it is today, I don't know. New age, and just like, you know, with the cannabis world, everyone thinks there's like Kush and sativa. I mean, indica and sativa. Well, sativa is the Latin word for resin. That's all it means. And indica simply means from where it is, anywhere local.
Don't worry about that. It's about how you feel within yourself at any particular time, Jim.
No,
But hang
it's
on.
about interpretations.
Jim, know when to
What's been
pause,
going on?
please. Jim, know when to pause, please. Anyone listening here, Ranty included, Paige, everyone here, me and Jim go back a long way. And one of the very first encounters we had on Pancho Pete Show was, well, it entailed your abject abhorrence to even the mention of the word ether, Jim, which we find nowadays with the Nathan
Still
Oakley
haven't
crew,
given
right?
me a cup of ether. Thank you.
Right, okay, but fair enough. Fair enough. But remember now, the ether, when we hear the word, it's applied to a certain historical context. Would you agree, Jim?
Mine is the chemical lab. That's it. It's out of the lab.
Forget about that. When the word is heard, right, it's applied to a certain historical context, and generally that is a universal context. So we have at least a solar system. What lies beyond? Well, Einstein, etc. Onwards will tell us about the expanding. Fucking hell, I don't even like thinking about these things. Everything to do with a spinning ball is utter fantasy. But when we take it back to a flat earth sense, Jim, and we imagine an ether in a different context, how could it come to be? How, again, well, we're going back to the clouds. Well, how can these clouds, which are composed of water vapor, adhere to these shapes, right? Whether they're random or not, they're still fucking shapes and there's still water vapor on the upward and on the downward climb, etc. But that's my point. Why is ether now such a dirty, controversial, dividing word when it shouldn't be at all for any flat earther, every flat earther?
No, well, initially the ether was a kind of local and sky phenomena where they learned radio properties, antennas, other stuff, a whole bunch of stuff that fell under the umbrella of the term ether. And it was kind of local for development of radio and other stuff of the day. It didn't pertain to all the way to outer space at that point, or have all these other, you know, galactic
that's my point, Jim.
connotations.
That's my point. It was misapplied. It was misapplied. The thing is real, but it was misapplied. And then comes the universal existence of us, where everything goes into the vast extent.
The group of phenomena that we're still looking at, this ether,
right.
We can have two things that we don't think are related, but somehow, wow, their properties blend in the damn ether somehow. Well, it's not ether was there. It's two things that, you know, essentially combined for a new phenomena, and because of their place in space and
time. Let me
time.
tell you this, Jim. Let me tell you this, and everyone else who's listening. And this is PJ talking to honestly, especially on this day, 9/11, 2020, 19 years later. Everything that I've learned, or everything I've come to sort of, and I'm only expressing it from my own point of view, ether is directly associated with what is causing our division on Earth here from the waters beyond, right? It is the prevailing force. It's the reactionary force because we live in a divided, broken system. And the ether is everything that's projected beneath us from the life energies emanating from the North Center. And I call that the tree of life. And I say that that is Aristarchus, so named because, well, when we look at our nearest neighbors, when we come to the flat earth, like the clouds and the moon, we're looking at craters, but we're misinterpreting it in the real sense. We know it's just nothing, you know, compared to the greater vast universe beyond in all directions. But in a flat earth sense, All of these craters are one crater emanating in a kaleidoscopic sense, and we're just viewing it as distinct, disparate, separate craters. Not craters are as dark as all crater, one crater. Anyway, that's the emanating source because we are on the fucking surface of the divided tree of life. The source hardwood is emanating from the center and withholding the waters beyond, first of all, in a collapsed, sort of inundated state, right? Unnatural state, as opposed to natural law, right? But yeah, we're under the ether then, which is the reactionary force to this actionary force that's withholding the waters beyond. And that actionary force is the life force. Without that, nothing vibrates. And when we think, last thing to say, thank you. Last thing to say is when we think about our own existence, everything vibrates, because if you don't vibrate, then you're at absolute zero. That means there's no ether, there's no prevailing force. And Jim, we just agreed, with electricity and with matter, then we get light, an effect as opposed to cause. Thank you.
They probably use things like the pyramids and those
Derek.
great big fancy buildings and played musical instruments in them to create, certain states.
But I'm not out to impress anybody, honestly, at this stage. And it's 9/11, Jim, and 2 became 1. 9/11, 11/9, 1/9. Here we are, 19 years later.
One of the reasons I popped on. There are two people who really, in my book, did the pieces of work on 9/11 and the physics involved and stuff. And one is an engineer out of Scotland. His name is Gordon Ross. And you can YouTube Gordon Ross Investigates 9/11. He does a 25-minute display, whatever, at a Boy Scouts hall somewhere in Scotland. But he shows where you would place in the evidence of where explosions happened and how the columns were basically loaded with charges and brought down sequentially. And he has the video clips from the 9/11 that he shows to demonstrate these.
It was fake video, Jim. It was fake video, bud.
Okay, well, whatever the case may be.
No, it's important. It was a movie that was presented to the world as live on 9/11. It wasn't real.
There was only 2 things I wanted to say, Pete, about 2 videos.
Okay, sorry about that, but you know that, Jim, and let me hear your response to that.
The buildings were loaded and brought down. It was a piece of theater. I'm not going to say no one died because I don't know that. I know you'd love me to, but I won't ever say that because I don't know. But the other one is David Chandler, and he does a lot of 9/11, rocket-propelled things. After a piece is ejected from the building, another piece accelerates even faster off of it and stuff, He measures speeds of beams falling and being blasted out to the sides at 45-degree angles like rockets. And these are, 20-ton beams and stuff. But David Chandler does some of the best work. Now, some people don't know who David Chandler actually is, but after the more than 6 million people were killed in Cambodia by the Khmer Rouge, he was one of the people who went in to do the forensic investigations of this mass murder by this government. So he has some experience in investigating things, and I guess some trustworthiness.
We're all these trustworthy people when it comes to flat Earth, Jim. Isn't it funny as we make our way through these processes? Let me just say, please.
He might have Alzheimer's and be rocking in some old folks' home right now. For all I know,
Jim,
I don't know.
Do you not notice that all the people who led us on our way, Ranty, especially to you, right? It's because you mentioned it earlier on, 9/11 being a transforming moment in your life, and it was in my life more than what you'll ever know. I'm telling you that. But where are all the people when you get on the internet and you start looking into conspiracy, all the gurus, if you want to call them that, where are they all when it comes to flat Earth? Where's Bart Sabrell when it comes to flat Earth? He's a big objector. Where is Alex Jones, who Brandon Toy, a regular on this channel, has actually done an interview with, a broadcast with? Where are all of Simon? I'm not going to say Simon Shack. Where is Simon Shack, Jimbo?
Pete. Good advice is worry about what you're doing and not what other people are doing. You'll get more done.
I am,
Yeah,
Jim.
well, it doesn't sound like that right now.
Well, I'm asking you, Jim, what do you think? Are all these people put in place as part of, let's call them sort of the little huts along the side road of the road to truth discovery? Are all these people put in place and have their limits set beforehand, like the ball earthers,
The best
or
way
even
to
lots of the
lead
flat earthers,
any
Jim,
movement
who
and
you will put
control them
down as
is
well
to
and talk
lead
about
them
them
in
being
the
put in
first
place?
place. It's the way the state runs things. If you got a
What about the
movement,
flat
they've
earthers
got
put in place,
agents
Jim?
in there. Pete, grow up. What are you trying to say, really? 3 years of the same speech. Oh, it's all controlled. Well, yeah. Give me a break.
I want you to be yourself. I want you to fucking laugh heartily, Jim. And tell me that you don't know that so many flat earthers have been put in place from the top to the bottom. Tell me that's the truth. You know it's the truth.
Of course.
Let everybody know.
Of course, Metatron Corporation, the guy with the UFO microphone all the time and the silly baseball caps there, acting like a 12-year-old giddy schoolgirl there. What's his name? I don't even know. I don't freaking care anymore. These clowns. And you're just embellishing them and raising them up with your, they're all this, that, and spies and the whole thing, and just never ever ends.
Okay, let's
not about the saboteurs.
Right, listen. Okay, so you two have obviously had some problems in the past with each other, and I can see it's all coming out right now. You know, this is history, guys. So to the audience, this is how long have you two been arguing with each other? Would you say?
From the get-go.
So
you know, at least 5 years. So.
Remember Pete's channel way back?
Yeah,
Jim hated the ether way back. When I was making discoveries in my own, hang on please, Jim. When I was making discoveries in my own sort of venture through flat earth reality, one of the first things I noticed, Jim, was your abject hatred towards the mention of the word ether. And of course we notice it now these days.
Well, there's no point in dragging it up again, though, Pete.
Not the word ether, the use of it.
Pete, we're not gonna kick off again. So let's just drop this. You two have had your back and forth for now. Yeah. You've got it off your chest for a while. Let's move this on. I know, Rob, you've just come off mute. Is there something you wanted to say?
Don't forget to laugh as well, Randy, as I'm on mute. Don't forget to fucking raise the laughter level.
Rob, are you there? Okay, fair enough. Paige, you've been waiting patiently.
No, I'm all good. I got my little story out, so I'm happy.
Paige has been waiting patiently.
She's been waiting patiently. Listen, I'm gonna shout out to Toady UK, who has recovered apparently from the COVID. He said he was very ill for a week. He was very ill for a week, and what was it? He said
such a deadly pandemic. He recovered, hey?
Yeah, but it was not the breathing issues for him, but apparently it was more to do with his loss of smell and taste. Plus, he had a temperature. So apparently it wasn't that bad for him. So well done, Toady, for surviving the pandemic there.
Yeah, such a deadly disease that you can't even look at somebody. It's so deadly.
But then he remembered back to his prison days and why he sort of was in the role of a Ball Earth antagonist in the first place from all his previous indiscretions.
Hey, Randy,
that's hilarious. I don't care who says what.
Yeah, but you remember it. Toady also survived swine flu. If you remember.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, he had that as well.
Did he have swine
with
flu
those
as
drooping
well?
titties of his. Who knows who sucked on him?
So he says that he has a weak immune system, but I actually think he probably has a very good immune system. I mean to fight off both of those things. To be honest, it would be the opposite. It wouldn't be a weak. It would be a good.
He's a resilient toad. He's a Brazilian resilient toad.
He's a cane toad.
Well,
maybe he swallows something to become immune. I won't say what.
If you lick his back,
well, all I'm going to say is, congratulations, Toadie,
Lick that wacky toad.
for fighting off the two most virulent diseases the UK has ever come into contact with. So yes,
Superman.
Awesome stuff. Well done. Right.
So has anybody
Ebola
come
next.
and talked to you about those bendy
gonorrhea. Gonorrhea is nothing to the toad.
I got some syphilis samples I can send him. I got Napoleonic syphilis too, if he wants a batch of that.
Is that all you got?
Napoleonic.
You know what? It's funny that I mentioned that, but there are addresses where you can truly order almost anything on Earth, including very deadly, pathogens, and they'll ship them to you to experiment with, do whatever you want with them. Well, it's legal.
Yeah, you can get all kinds of stuff.
You don't need any special
delivered to
permits
you
or
now.
anything, just an interest.
Yep.
Just so you know.
There's a guy who's creating
can always be very
glow-in-the-dark
funny, that's
dogs
true, guy.
from his garage. He's breeding dogs and putting.
And a
this
lot of them are
glow-in-the-dark-
actually very easy to get out of nature, including anthrax and stuff. But to get weaponized anthrax, you'd have a lot of work to do.
What do you think about the plague? I mean, you hear stories of what the plague did. It ravaged through Europe. Did it kill 20% of all the people in Europe? Apparently, I'm
beginning to think some of these stories of plagues and stuff were just war campaigns, mass murders, other things covered over. I really do believe that. You look at all of these countries that have all these orphanages, orphan trains, asylums for the adults, and
trains,
just thousands and thousands of people died in them and stuff, and the pattern repeats everywhere. During I don't know 1500s, whatever, after the Queen and the British Empire formed, it seemed every country that they went to, didn't matter where, in Africa, in Europe, and it didn't matter where. Oh, they got there was a war going on in Iran, in Persia. They had to, and then they established their own empire and their Shah with the control. And the world was taken over by this empire club there of the British.
These are all stories, and it's very pertinent as well on this day. So 9/11, 1941 was the date of the the laying of the foundation stone for the Pentagon. Of course, the Pentagon was struck on 9/11. When we think about Pearl Harbor, a story is presented to us, and it's a horror story, horror beyond horror, not only from the point of view of the victims, but also those who are perpetrating the crime, the kamikazes. We're always asked to put ourselves in the situation of these horrible sort of dilemmas, in a sense, right? And I think this is where it all comes back to the mind as well. When we look back at 9/11, when we look back at Pearl Harbor, we at least can consider, Ranty, I don't think there's anything wrong with saying this, that, well, hang on, is this more fucking media fakery, a la moon landing fakery, etc., a la possibility of Boston bombing fakery, etc.? So ultimately, the question comes back to, where are you in your mind as the individual with all of this? And if there's a greater structure to it, I guess this is my ultimate point. The greater structure is in place for us, right? Which is a question I was going to ask you, Jim. I was actually going to ask you about reincarnation, or what do you think happens to us afterwards? Are we constantly sort of recycled into this material hell, in a sense, until we work it out, or is there a sort of greater story in place?
Most cultures
it all ties into that question. What do you think?
Most cultures have stories of people being brought back to life, like Lazarus, Jesus, and I forget who else, biblically speaking. But other cultures also have stories of reincarnation. Some at least, have a theory that when you die, if you can't get to heaven, you go back to the pool of life, and you come back to reanimate, different things here. And that process continues until, you reach, for the Hindus, Godhead, they call it, which is
what if you didn't learn which door to take, Jim, or if you didn't learn just to stay fucking still?
And for me, there's no
what
doubt
if you
we have a
can't get
creator
through that door unless
in
you
his construction,
vibrate in a certain way?
there is a heaven, but it's not for everyone, and it's not for everyone till they're, up the cloth, if you will. I'm certainly not going to be there this time around, I don't think. But Who knows?
If there's a heaven beyond, Jim.
Well, has anybody ever had a sort of like experience where they thought they may have ended up there or anything like that?
Oh, there are many people who have died and come back and know there's a heaven, a God, even a Christ.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, has anybody experienced that themselves?
I know someone who has,
Near
but I haven't
death
myself.
experience, out of body experience, yeah, but there was no creator waiting for me. There's no demons either.
What was it? What was it then?
I talked about it in my own show or my own hangout, but it would take too long to tell it.
We'll make it quick then, Pete.
What?
We'll make it quick. Tells the quick story.
I couldn't do it just about making it quick, but definitely experience something out of this world. There's no sort of explanation I could come to explain what I went through, and I just sort of encompassed it. And it doesn't mean encompassing weird and strange things. It's just encompassing the idea that there are different forces in play in this new reality I find myself in. That's all. But look, honestly, if you wanted me to sort of compress it into 5 minutes, I wouldn't do it justice. It would have to be a bit longer than that because it was a whole sort of process over a day. And it was a day, I'll tell you the day exactly it was. The day Pope Francis was inaugurated. That's the day I jumped in the lake following the experience. And so I sort of rebaptized myself in a frozen lake. And I swear it's true. And I've told this on my own channel as well. So I'm not just like coming out and saying, and I would be able to recount it as best I could. Let me put it like this, right? The starting sign was a big, massive hand. And it immediately occurred to me, this is the hand of God appearing in the sky in the great distance, right? But I'm thinking to myself, this is crazy. Okay, it looks like a certain thing, but that hand dissolved, right? That's all the best way I can describe it. It dissolved like a cloud dissolving and taking a sort of certain path. And it reformed over my location, over my head when I was living in Clare. And not only did it reform, it reformed into a certain indistinguishable thing. That was a trident. That's the only thing I think of, a fork in wispy lines. And it stayed there for about, directly over me for about, I'm going to say about 30 seconds, and then it wisped off again. So there's more to the story than what happened later on that evening. But you know what I mean? I couldn't tell it in 5 minutes. But that was the original mysterious occurrence.
Well, maybe we'll do a show about it.
Well, look, listen. If you were to talk about your I'm not sure whether to take it serious. There's a guy in the chat, your own chat here, who is called Lumberjack as well, and he claims not to have heard your story about Lumberjack.
Lumberjack was my best friend as a kid.
Exactly.
He was my best friend as a kid.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not going to take that away from you. If you're going to transmit that that's the truth and your experience is a true expression of, what you gathered as reality at the time, well, I'm going to take it as is and with my new eyes, my new mind, and maybe interpret it differently. Let me just say, Ranty, I'm a lumberjack, but this lumberjack specifically and clearly cuts down trees, right?
Well, the story goes. I was a kid. I think I was from the age of say 2 to being about the age of 5. I had this lumberjack that lived in the wardrobe. And it was an old oak wardrobe at the bottom of the bed. So facing the bottom of my bed was this old oak wardrobe, and he used to come out, and I used to have conversations with him. My mum would hear me and my dad talking in the bedroom, and they just put it down to being some kind of imaginary friend. And I tell them, no, I was talking to the lumberjack, and it was a lumberjack. It was a guy that was dressed as a lumberjack with an axe. He had an axe. And were
you frightened of him? Or
no. It was like
okay.
It was like a granddaddy type of feel.
Yeah.
It was that sort of feeling. Anyway, so I had him, like I say, up until being about 5 years of age, and then I came home from school one day, and my mum and dad had thrown out the old oak wardrobe, burnt it. They were going to burn it that night or whatever, and they'd put this new wardrobe in, which was like a horrible new wardrobe. I didn't like it. I preferred the old one, obviously. but he never appeared again after that. So he must have been linked, I think, to
so sad.
to the oak wardrobe, and I think. I mean, you can speculate why he was attached to that particular tree or whatever, or the piece of oak that it was made of. But it's possible maybe he died, maybe he got caught up in the felling of the tree, and his spirit got associated with that. I mean, that's possible. But he was definitely associated with
they say trauma attaches things, don't they? Trauma,
dangerous
and stuff,
work felling
strong
trees.
Emotions.
But
Especially in the old days.
Listen, you open yourself up.
Well, hang on. Yes, I know, that's fine. But Toadie asks, did he have a beard? Yes, he did. And he also says, how large was he? Was he bigger than you? Yes, he was. He was an oldish man. I would say he was about in his late 50s. He had a beard. He was a big, strong lumberjack guy with an axe. What can I say? I mean, I was a kid. He was like my childhood friend from being the age of 2 till 5. So, I mean, this was a real thing that not just I thought that I was speaking to, but which was confirmed by my parents saying that they would hear me having conversations with they would class as an imaginary friend, because they didn't see him, but they would hear me talking when they went to the bathroom, saying they would hear me talking to this imaginary friend, which wasn't imaginary. He was real. And like I say, he never returned anyway once the oak wardrobe was burnt. So yeah. So I am.
Do you ever talk about who he was, or
No, I can't. Listen, I was 2 years old to 5p. I can't remember. I can't remember what I spoke to him about.
Well, you can remember, of course.
No, I can't.
You remember the minute? I can remember when consciousness.
Can you remember being born, Pete? Can you remember being born?
No. But hang on, please. I've also told the story on my own.
Can you remember being born, Pete?
I remember when consciousness entered into my brain, and I woke. I shook my hand. Okay, you're talking, so I don't want to be.
Yeah, I'm sorry. No, listen, Pete. I would disagree. I think most of us have vague memories of events. Right. Say, being under the age of 10, we have vague memories. Like I remember my 7th birthday, because a lot of my friends turned up to my 7th birthday. But I remember getting smacked because I put some dungarees on a fire, and I burnt a hole in them, and I remember getting smacked off that. I remember sticking a knitting needle into a plug socket.
Did lumberjack smack you? Were they dungarees?
I remember sticking a knitting needle into a plug socket, and it started a fire around the plug socket, but I was holding the plastic bit at the very end of it, so I didn't get electrocuted.
My goodness, you were a naughty little thing, weren't you?
Yeah.
These are vague memories as you look back in it. You just said you have clear memories.
To tell me, listen, I have a very poor memory for conversations. Very poor memory for that.
Okay,
so
that's fair enough.
I am more. I can remember events.
Much easier to remember the event.
I can remember events,
an actual
but as for conversations and whatever, I can't remember that. Pete, I was too young.
Well, you're not too young. Don't be given that bowler shit, right? Back then you knew exactly what was going on. Look, we're born into a foreign land. We're taught a foreign language and fed a foreign fucking food. My mother didn't even breastfeed me. I asked her, why didn't you breastfeed me? She gave me the fucking formula. Well, how might it turned out if I was fed naturally? Yeah, but anyway. Yeah,
right, well, I just want to say,
not trust ourselves as youngsters, Ranty. And
Lumberjack's back. I found him. He's in the chat. Lumberjack's back.
Well, there you go.
He's returned. He's returned from the dead. He's returned from being burnt alive on the fire.
Listen to me. A lumberjack means a lot to me. Yesterday, all my troubles seemed so far away. I'm not half the man I used to be. Lumberjack cuts down trees. We have fucking limbs. We have spines. We have a hardwood, right? We have veins. There's a big connection between all of this. And what I'm just saying to you personally, if what you're relating is true, what you need to do is focus on the vague memories and go back to the clear memories. And I think we can remember everything. Remember your first day at school? That's at 4 years of age. Sit down in your bed in a calm environment, lie down in your bed in a calm environment, and just focus those memories. We remember them. Mm-hmm. We've been told to forget with all the fucking nonsense.
Well, to be honest, there was no nonsense. It's just that You know, everybody's brain works a little bit differently, Pete. And if you can remember coming out of your mum's womb and suckling on a breast, that's fine. Me personally,
she never breastfed me, the bitch.
Me personally, I can't remember any of that. So
I don't know if you've any children. It's not that I made my son's mom breastfeed him for 6 months, but I sort of persuaded her. You know, it was sort of going against the grain in a sense. But I said, look, we only have, or this is the way I was thinking anyway. We only have one sort of route, one pathway. It's not as if you can. My beautiful son can sort of see. I'll try 6 months with the tit milk and 6 months without,
6
and
months.
see
You
which
should
way
do at
those
least
paths
that.
will take. You know what I mean? So the best we can do is go along with nature, and this is breastfed. But my mother, no, they were at the time the swinging 60s, the Beatles, promiscuousness. Yeah, it was uncool to let something suck off your tit, right? So they gave him the formula. So who knows what sort of degradation.
Actually, there is one thing I do remember. There is one thing I do remember as well, and that was having this mental dream of climbing this hill and throwing myself off a cliff and falling into a vat. It was like a massive vat of needles and pins, right? And then I would fall into these pins. I would just be covered in them, you know, I mean, the pain and everything. And then I'd get up and I'd climb the hill again and I'd throw myself in it again. And I did this over and over and over, and it was like the worst nightmare ever. Now, I thought for the longest time, I thought I was only, I was only probably 4 or 5. And I remember this vividly, that when I finally woke up, I had my granddad, my sister, my granddad, me Auntie Rose, my mum, my dad, around the bed, you know, and they were sort of like patting my head with this, you know, cold cloth sort of thing to try and, you know, bring my temperature down or whatever. And when I woke up, you know, I was like, I saw them there, and then they went to say, oh, he's awake, sort of thing, you know, and they went to sort of like hug me or grab me or something, and all I saw was these like Freddy Krueger fingers with bloody needles coming towards me to stab me. You know, I was terrified. I was like, no, don't touch me. I was still having this hallucination. And it was only years and years, I mean, I'm talking maybe, let's say 3 years ago, right, that I started to inquire with my mum what went on that day, you know. Why wouldn't they have got me in touch with a doctor or anything like that, or anything? And it turned out after much inquiring, because my mum didn't want to give this information up. She has motor neuron disease anyway, so she can't really speak. But you know, so I was asking her questions. Did I take something? Did I eat? It turned out that my mum and my Uncle Clifton had been having magic mushrooms, and they'd left them on the side, and I must have seen them eating them and thought, oh, sweets. Grabbed the whole lot, and I ate them all. And I ate them all.
Holy
that
shit,
just
you
came to you
were
there, that
little
new
turd,
memory
weren't
came to you. When did that happen? When you were about 2 or 3?
Jumping into
just when the
everything.
lumberjack
Well, lumberjack, that explains it now.
No, this was one event, and yeah. I mean, I only found out. Listen, it just bugged me for years. I thought, there's no way, because she sent me to school the next day, you know, and I was like, you didn't get time off with my mum. My mum didn't ever let you have time off school, you know. So it was a case of, why didn't she, if I was so ill, not have me off work, off school, you know? And I was like, this is definitely, there's more into this that I need to find out. So,
did you picture yourself as you were walking to school with a black leather jacket and gel back hair, cool as the goddamn motherfucker?
Do you remember laughing, Ranty?
No, I don't. No, I wasn't. I was hysterically terrified. Terrified. Oh, it was horrible. Listen, from that day till now, I mean, I've been... some of the things I saw, it was weird. I mean, the needles that I saw were needles, you know, with injection needles and pins and and I don't ever recall seeing these things in my childhood. I don't remember actually seeing these things, you know, like syringes and stuff. So how did my brain make these
Even
images?
Know what they looked like.
Yeah, if I'd never even seen them, because I'd never seen them. And like I say, I mean,
on television, you would have seen them
Maybe,
subliminally here or there.
got
But the greater
vaccinated
question is
or
getting
something.
back to the operation or the true nature of the mind, Ranty. And Jesus Christ, if you had magic mushrooms when you were 2 years of age, you must be injecting heroin up your anus at this stage to get a decent high.
Well, I'll tell you what. It was a bad trip. It was, and as I say, since then I've always been terrified of needles. So, I only have to look at a needle and I cringe. Even when I go to pick them up, if you're going to sew something or whatever, I'm very careful about picking them up. And I hate anything jabbing into me. Just doesn't. Yeah, I just don't like it. Don't like it at all.
I said this to you before. You've been interfered with as a young baby.
I was not interfered with as a young baby, Pete.
Thing, you know what I mean?
Pete, I was not interfered with as a young kid.
I'm just saying there's a possibility. You're looking for answers.
No, Pete, I wasn't. You idiot.
You know what I mean, though? I mean, one of the first thing is, from what I understand, never happened to me, but from what I understand, is to disassociate the mind and the
Right, enough of that shit. So, not having him say that shit, you can fuck off. You can stay on mute for a while. Anyway, so, yes, I definitely wasn't interfered with as a child. But that did happen. That definitely did happen. And the reason I brought up the near-death thing, I have another story. So, has any of you guys ever actually experienced some kind of near-death thing? Paige or anything like that? Gleam?
No, not myself. I've heard stories from others, but not myself.
Only as a little child, I wouldn't remember.
Hello?
Cracked my skull twice.
Hello?
Hello, Rob?
Hello?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're all good now. You're coming through.
Fuck. I got a brand new Bluetooth headset, and apparently Discord doesn't like the microphone on it. So, I had to go to my old shitty headset. But, I will get back to you, man. I'm just trying to finish this break job. I just want to make sure I can be heard.
Yeah, no worries, mate. No worries. So I did have this this really weird experience. I was 7 years old. So my uncle Clifton had died, and he died about 3 weeks before. And I was in bed, and then I had this. It wasn't even a dream. It was like I woke up, and I saw this light, and then I'm being pulled toward this light at a really fast speed, and then I'm going through this like tunnel, and it was tunnel vision. It was just I'm looking like through a tube, like a toilet tube or something like that. So the bright light at the end was very small, and then as I'm getting nearer and nearer it got brighter and brighter, and then eventually it was just pure brightness, and everything that I saw after then was just white. Everything was white. The floor that I was walking across was like clouds. It was like a low-lying mist at your feet, say up to your knees or something. So I've walked through this, and I could see this building at the end, and it was like an archway. So I'm walking towards this white building with an archway, and I get through the arch, and then I look to the left and I look to the right, and there's people lying on the floor, and they're covered up with these white like covers over themselves. And I couldn't understand it. I'm looking left, I'm looking right, and they're lying on the floor, and they've got these white robes on them, but they were awake. They were there. And I thought, do I go left or do I go right? And I just got sort of like pulled or directed. I don't know. It was like a weird sort of move off to the right. So I'm walking down towards the right, and then on the left hand side, I saw my Uncle Clifton lying in a with a sheet over him. And I asked him 3 questions because after my mum died, because I used to do astral projection as a kid. I was like very spiritual, do all that kind of stuff. So she said, if you ever see your Uncle Clifton, ask him these 3 questions. So I remembered the questions, and I asked him the 3 questions. I don't recall what they are now, but because I was very young, I was 7. But I do remember that I asked him the questions that my mum had asked me to ask him if I ever saw him. So I did, and I asked him these questions. And he told me the answers, whatever it was. And after the 3rd answer that he gave to me, as soon as he gave me that answer, it felt like something had grabbed me round the ankles, right? And just yanked me at 1,000,000 miles an hour through the clouds, through the floor, through the clouds, and everything turned black. So I'm just hearing this wind through my ears. It was just going, and it was deafening. It was so loud I thought my eardrums were going to pop. And I've been pulled down at such force that my stomach felt like it was in my mouth. It was really, it was like being on the world's biggest roller coaster times 10. And I'm being pulled down at 1,000,000 miles an hour, and I hit the bed with a thud, like that. I remember physically hitting it, and I opened my eyes, and as I'm opening my eyes like that, I'm about 3 feet off the bed, literally about 3 feet off the bed, and it must have been that I'd hit the bed and bounced up or something. It felt like that anyway, because I was like 3 feet off the bed, and then I landed back on the bed, fully aware of what had just happened. And of course I went straight to my mum's room, it was about 2 o'clock in the morning, knocked on and told her what had happened. And that is an absolute true story.
What did she say about the questions? Did you tell her the answers
Yes,
he gave you?
I did.
Do you remember what she said?
I don't recall the conversation, no. But I remember that I told her what he'd told me.
Don't you hate that when you can't remember?
I remember the event, I remember what I felt, I remember what I saw. But as for the conversation, I just can't remember that. But the feeling, the knowledge that I went through this tunnel with a white light at the end, and then being pulled back down, and I gasped for air. That was another thing as well. It was like I gasped for air when I actually was halfway up the bed, when I woke up. As soon as I opened my eyes up, I was like gasping for air. It was weird. It was like I'd been holding my breath for like 10 minutes or something.
Holding your breath.
Yeah. And that told me, that kind of reaffirmed to me anyway, that there was something else. I mean, like I say, because I used to do this astral projection as a kid. You could leave your body, so I could, unintentionally, I couldn't actually make myself do it, but it would happen to me. Now, my mum, she can astral project without it just happening. It just, to her, she can concentrate on it, and then she's able to do it. But with me, I could never do that.
Wow.
It just happened to me. It was just like I don't know. Like I say,
control.
I had no control over it. But once you do, I remember this one time.
Sneezing or something.
I remember this one time I left my body and I went flying towards the window to go out of the window, and I instinctively put my hands up, to stop myself hitting the window, and I just flew right through it like there was nothing there. It was just whoosh, straight outside. And I remember seeing my friend next door, David Bailey at the time. He was there playing on his swing, so I flew around him, watched him playing on his swing. Weird. It was really weird, but I was definitely very, spiritually minded at that age, and I think even.
I wonder whether people's dreams are stuff like that, whether they just don't even realise that's what's happening, but they're doing some kind of astral projection and going around looking at stuff. It causes a dream.
Well, yeah, I've told this story a few times actually on different shows, and I think I've even spoken about this a few times on this show too in the past. So it's not something that I'm afraid to talk about, because it was definitely, definitely a real thing that happened. And even in my 20s and even 30s, I think I had the feeling as well that I was going to leave the body. You get this feeling. I don't know. It's hard to explain. You get this. You hear this wind in your ears. It's really weird, and then you get this feeling of being, I don't know, like being on a roller coaster. It's like it messes around with your stomach, And I actually was thinking to myself, I'm going to astral project. I'm going to astral project. I'm going to astral project. Oh, I'm not.
So you know what's going to happen.
Yeah. So I kind of like, I want to do it, but I can't force myself to do it. So it's like the last 10 times or so that this has been, you know, on the cards kind of thing, like I'm about to do it. I've not been able to follow through and finish it. So yeah, it's a bit saddening, really.
About it too much.
Yeah. And I have the last few times as well. I've actually, you know, right, I'm not thinking about it. It's gonna.
I'm not thinking about it.
But you just can't do it. So. Pete Bramble says, "Why don't you astral project up high in the sky and see if it's a globe or flat? Do you know something? I honestly, if it ever happens to me again, that is the first thing I am going to do. Trust me, that's the first thing I'm going to do."
I heard somebody say that they did that, like they were a ball believer or something, and then they saw it as a ball, and then after they found out about flat Earth, it was flat, like as if what they thought in their mind was what they saw.
Oh, it's weird. It's weird. I think as a kid was so much open-minded as a kid that you allow these things to just naturally happen. And I think that a lot of the Indians, you know, if you go back, you know, you read these Indian cultures and stuff, you know, they kind of lean towards this astral projection, you know, leaving the body kind of thing, and being very spiritual. Anyway, it's sort of like just that they're so in tune with their nature. And I think
the Aboriginals do too.
I think the environment that we live in, you know, right now, with the society that we have, and the I don't know, maybe it's the programming that we're given from a very young age, you know, sort of like tries to remove us from that, you know, or kind of affect us. So we lose that ability.
I tell you, from the minute you're born, you're on a spinning ball out in the middle of nowhere. You're a speck of dust that doesn't matter. You know, you came from monkeys, you know, and one day the sun's just going to burn out. You know? So of course, your whole outlook is going to be different.
Mm-hmm.
It's really sad what they do to us.
I mean, like I say, I think some of these cultures, they take drugs to get that way, you know, to get back in touch with their spiritual side. But you know, I think we all have that ability as kids, and I would imagine probably there's probably 10% of the people that are in the chat right now that have probably had something like that happen to them as a kid, you know.
Probably.
Yeah, I would think so. Pete's off mute.
Treat their children completely differently too. Like, you know, they have coming of age ceremonies, and you know, all this kind of stuff. They teach their children in a completely different way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're sort of taught that when we're kids, we're to be seen and not heard, and you know, you're a child, so you're incapable, you know, because you're a child. Whereas a lot of other cultures encourage their children to, you know, be more responsible, and, you know, like a kid who can walk the goats from the farm to the market, you know, and he's 8 years old and the family lets him do it because he knows he can, you know.
Liam, have you got any insight into this?
I'd say similar. I've had a similar experience, a very similar experience without the, you know, the bright light you said. I've had the experience of astral projection, yes. Not going anywhere out of my room, but lifting feeling, yes, without drug intake.
How old were you when that happened?
There's been loads of other time where I've completely drug intake experiences, but let's not talk about those ones. But all I can say about me not having that light one, the one, you know, the near-death experience, getting to the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
All I can say is I've wrote a song about it though. People adjust your brightness.
Ah, right, okay, is that what it's about? Right, okay.
That was my song. Either way, yeah. But nah, I've had accidents. I've definitely had accidents, but nothing major. Nothing really bad. I haven't even broke a bone in my body. I've fractured my skull a couple of times, but never broke a bone in my body.
Everybody needs to break a bone in the body a few times.
Yeah, I haven't.
I've
Sorry,
never
I tell a
broken
lie.
bone either.
I tell a lie. I've broken probably my nose bone, but never went to hospital to get it fixed. I just
That's
dealt with
not a
it.
bone.
Yeah,
that's
It's a
exactly
cartilage,
it.
isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's the most I can claim.
Yeah, mine was broken too. In fact, the doctor had a look at it about a year ago. He was examining me for something or other. Can't remember what it was now. And he looked up with the light thing, and he says, "I've never seen a nose bone like that." I says, "What do you mean?" He says, "Well, on your right side. I mean, I've always had a lump there after I got headbutted," and he says that part of your bone or whatever is completely, over to the right hand side. It's cutting off most of your airway on the right hand side. Now, to be fair, I mean, I'd always known that I had trouble breathing through the right nostril, but I'd never, it never bled. I got this, I got into a fight and I got headbutted. He took the first swipe sort of thing, headbutted me. And I had a raging headache for about 2 days afterwards. But there was no blood. I didn't feel that, you'd expect when you get a broken bone like that you would bleed, but there was no blood. But that's always been there. But yeah, I've broken my ankle, I think, about 3 times. I've broken my kneecap in 3 places when I was 17. I've broken 2 ribs. I've broken my finger, my left hand, little finger, not the actual finger, but there's a bone beneath the finger. Anyway, that was split into 2.
This is like Ranty Chan, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
You got more broken bones than Jackie Chan.
But I heal good. That's the good thing. They heal stronger when you've had them broken. So
I heal good.
I heal good. I knew that I would. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with a few broken bones to toughen you up a little bit.
But to go on the natural mystic side of things, yes, I do believe in that as well. I believe that there is something else in the consciousness, in the I don't know. There's a thing that I like to follow, let's say, which is called Morphic Resonance, which is Rupert Sheldrake is one of the leader of the theories at the moment. If anyone wants to look in it, it's just basically there's a field of consciousness where every human being is tuned into a particular frequency of this field, and we all
That's fascinating stuff.
Yeah, in all certain way we have a connection in order to communicate amongst each other en masse. There we go. And
telepathy, that would be cool.
I reckon animals can use that. I reckon they have
he done studies on it. Yeah, he done studies on it. He done it on dogs. Yeah, he done do dogs realize or recognize through a sixth sense whether their owners are coming home from work. So he got a woman to basically leave at random times, so there's no set pace to it, and he got you know when you get exactly 50% or around about thereabouts, he got more than average, put it that way. However, it was close to sort of like 56%. Let's say 56% of the time the dog went to the door within like 15 minutes of the owner pulling up in their car.
Yeah, Zeus does that. He always goes to the door, maybe 10-15 minutes before Adam gets home.
It's crazy how they've got this.
Call out to, is Daddy on his way home? Is he? And he'll just sit at the door.
I had a cat. I had a cat actually that could. It was such a clever cat as well. It was less than a year of age, and it would let itself out by opening the window and it wasn't just like a normal window thing. It had to flick the latch off at the bottom, right, to free it that way, and then it had to flip the latch on the side and then push it open at the same time. So it had obviously watched me opening the window, and I would come home and it's like, where's the cat? Why is the window open? Where's the cat? Why is my window open? This went on for a few weeks, and then I was at home one time, and I heard the cat making a noise at the window, and I watched the little bugger, and it took him about 20 seconds to open the window and let himself out. How clever is that? You ever seen a cat open a window like that?
Yeah, straight, and ring doorbells. I've seen a ring doorbells. Definitely.
The clever bit is, Ranty, right? That you came home in another night and you saw this cat out on the windowsill with all windows locked, and you couldn't for the life of you.
Yeah, that was another one. Yeah.
Now you got to figure out how.
That wasn't even my cat, though.
Window, but how it closed the window as well.
Yes, that wasn't even my cat, though. That was another one. Yeah. How the hell did that get on the windowsill? Till this day, I still have no idea. I mean, maybe somebody threw it up there. I don't know. It's the only thing I can think of. That cat could not have got up there.
I swear to God.
Someone threw up a cat. I hate that bollocks, Ranty. Your man from across the road
Yeah,
said.
take this.
Go on, Gleam, you were saying.
I was going to say, I swear to God, they can, if their claws are good enough and if the brickwork is rough enough, they can literally Spider-Man it up the wall. I shit you not,
Yeah,
I've
they're
seen
pretty
it.
amazing.
Yeah, they are. Cats are classic. I love cats
It's
and dogs.
easier than that,
Dogs
Ranty,
and cats
if you look
are
back
different.
sorry, Glebe, if you look back at your video where you posted that, Ranty, I gave you the solution because you posted a picture. The cat jumped from the roof to the pole that was going up the drain post or pole, and then onto the ledge. That was simple as that.
No, it wasn't as simple as that, Pete. There was no way for that cat to have got up there. I'm sorry.
Post the image you posted that time.
Goodness, it's a video that's on my channel. But yeah, there's just no way. I was just. I mean, there's just no way. There's no way that cat could have got up there, but it did. And yeah, these things.
A bad omen. How have things panned out since then?
Huh?
I said, was it an omen? Was it a bad omen? How do you rate things have panned out since then?
Oh, I have no idea. I mean, the cat. I've never seen the cat again.
Not for the cat, for you.
Oh, for me? Oh, I don't know. Just normal life things, I mean, you can't say that was an omen,
Well, you can't not say that it wasn't an omen.
Well, I don't know. You could say, well, you could pick out that being an omen, but what about the time I crossed the road and a car was coming towards me? The 7,000 times that's happened. Which one of them was an omen, Pete?
Yeah, but that's you can replicate that tomorrow by just walking your way onto the road. But a black cat, which you say you can't figure out to this day how it made its way up to, or not a black cat, whatever, up until your windowsill, that's not an ordinary experience.
Yeah, it's not an ordinary experience, but then again,
it's something that is out of the blue.
But then again, I have a lot of these weird experiences. I don't know why it happens to me a lot, but yeah. Maybe I attract these weird experiences.
What if you've never been to
the video you posted? You're prone to taking up crazy bets in that pool hole. What was that? That was mad, man. You made it well. What did you make it to the fifth drink? Was it the pint too short at the end?
But me drinks. Yeah, I just drank my drinks. But as for the pool, no, I mean I had to pot a ball in each pocket, and every time I potted a ball in a pocket, he had to take a drink. So I just potted 6 balls in 6 pockets straight away, no problem. I was really good at pool. I still am really good at pool.
Walk wasn't so easy, right?
Go on, Gleam. You had a question.
I was just saying, what if you haven't been to Oman?
Oman? Oh, right, okay. Oman. Right, okay. No, I've never been to Oman. But yeah, as for pools and stuff, Pete, I mean, yeah, I'm a bit of a hustler, mate, You have to watch out if we ever play.
I'm up for a game of pool. My old man actually runs the local pool league. down there.
Nice one,
yeah, we need to have a pool tournament.
I'd love to challenge you both to a game of pool and a game of chess while we're not taking a shot.
I'm up for chess too. I love chess. Chess is my game. I prefer chess over pool, but
well, you'll have to be aware that I have done a lot of hustling in my time with pool. I got hustled as a kid. The thing was, I got hustled as a kid. So I was 16.
That's definitely my crew.
Huh?
Pool and chess. I'm in.
Oh, do tell, Ranty. Do tell. You've done a lot of hustling.
I've done a lot of hustling. Yeah, Well, when I was 15, I got my first window cleaning round. So I was doing that on the weekend, and I kept on doing it up until I was about 18 or something like that. And yeah, so when I was about 16, I chanced my arm going into the pub. So I went in the pub, the local pub up in Fleetwood, ordered myself a pint, and I got served, and I was like, yeah, nice one, because I had a window, I had my window cleaning gear on, with the scrims and the leather, and all that kind of thing. So I don't think they even thought about it at the time, that I was only 16. Anyway, they served me, and so they had a snooker table there, and anyway, there's this guy in there, and he says, "Oh, do you want a game?" I said, "Yeah, I'll have a game." So I had him a game, and he said, "Oh, do you want to play for a pint?" Like, I said, "Yeah, sure." Never thought about it. I'd never really picked a cue up in my time. Anyway, so he beat me like on the black or something. A really close game. Beat me on the black. Terrible game. Anyway, so I ended up paying him a pint. Anyway, so as the weeks went by, I used to turn up and play him at at snooker, and he always seemed to just beat me on the black. And I was getting better, and he was always just keeping beating me on the black. So this went on for over a year, and I stopped going in for I don't know, probably about 2 months. I decided I wasn't gonna go in the pub. I was gonna practice, and I was gonna beat this guy because it was doing my head in. So I went down to the local pool hall and snooker hall, and I just literally set up games all night and played snooker. That's all I ever did. Just played it every single night. Went down there 4 or 5 hours every night, and I got really good. And then I went and I played him this one time. The next time that I went into the pub, and he was like, "So I haven't seen you for a while." I said, "No, I haven't seen you for a while. Do you want a game?" "Yeah, no problem." So I had him a game. Anyway, I thrashed him. And I didn't just beat him on the black, I beat him by about 70 points. And then the next game, had another game, and again I beat him by about 70 points, and I was putting in breaks of like 30 and 40. And I said, "Oh, do you want another game?" He said, Nah, forget it. Nah, it's alright, No, I don't want to have another game. So waited the next week, he wasn't there. Waited the next week, he wasn't there. Never saw him again ever, right? But up until that point, he'd probably had about 150 pints off of me, and I'd only won 2 of them back. And I realised, obviously, years later, that obviously he'd been hustling me that entire time, that he was probably a decent player, but not a very good player. And he realised, obviously, that I'd got better and would always take that pint off of him every time we met. So he scarpered whilst he was 150 pints in front, sort of thing. So obviously, that got me into the snooker scene. And the best break on the snooker on a full size table was 121. So yeah, I'm not that bad. so yeah.
He definitely quit while he was there.
Yeah. Absolutely brilliant. I will say that is very decent.
Yeah,
very decent. Top.
So
for snooker.
For snooker, yeah. I mean, that was when I was playing all the time, and then I downgraded to the 3/4 size table, and they put me on the. If you join the league, you get a plus 28 start for your first season because they don't know how good you are or whatever like this. So I was off 28, and I was playing guys that were just average, that was like off, let's say, 12 or something like that. So I was getting like a 16 head start. It was really bad for them because there's only 10 balls on a 3/4 size table, and 10 red, sorry, and the pockets are big compared to the full size table. And the game just became very easy, and I went through that whole season. I lost 1 game. That was it, just 1 game. I think there was 24 games. I won 23, and the next season that I started off from being off 28 plus 28. On the next season, they put me off minus 16. So I was off minus 16, and then I was playing guys that were like, they were off like 40, right? And they were good players. I mean, I don't know how they managed to wangle their score up to 40. Maybe they just lost on purpose. Maybe they played these people and just said to them, look, lose this game because we've already won the match, it doesn't matter, and you'll get a better handicap, because they were playing off 40 and they were getting like a 30 break, you know, and I'm off minus 16. So I'm already giving them, you know, if they were off, let's say 40 and I'm off minus 16, I'm giving them a 56 point head start, right? And there's only 107 points available. So I had hardly any chance that second season. I think I only won about half my games, you know, lost half my games, won half my games. And then after that I said, do you know what? I'm not playing this anymore because it's just too stacked against decent players. You know, I can't compete with this on a 3/4 size table. So I went and played pool. So then I changed it and I started playing pool. And yeah, I was really good at pool. You know, I beat some of the guys that played for England in pool. You know, I had a rack of trophies. I had probably about 20 odd trophies in five seasons of doing it, 6 seasons of doing it, something like that. And I keep my hand in now. You know, I don't play very much. I've maybe only had 100 games in the last 15 years or something. That's probably all I've had. But
Pete thinks you're a snooker agent now.
No, I'm not a snooker agent.
Hang on. I was just asking Randy, after that sort of transition, did you hustle? Did you learn to hustle?
Yeah. So in the pool, So we used to play things like Killer, you know, and all this kind of stuff. And then there would be people that come in and say, "I'll play anybody for a game," you know, because we played in some of the best pubs, you know. So people would come in to challenge us, and you know, I was always up for a game, you know, and you'd hustle them, you know. Of course you would. So I could always go out and win 30, 40 quid on every night. It was no problem.
Really?
Yeah, it was easy. Yeah, it was easy to, you know, £10 a game, £5 a game. Oh yeah, I mean, well, these guys thought they could play, you know, and they could play, but you know, unless they dished up on the break, you know, unless they 7-balled me on the break, there was just, you know, then that was it. They had one chance. If they didn't dish up on the break, then, you know, I was going to find a way to win it somehow. Doesn't matter how I won it, whether I potted the next 7 balls or not. My first game that I played in the first division, I got pulled into to a team to say, oh, you know, do you want to play in the first team? And they had a good team, and so the guy that had hired me to join the team, he put me on first, and of course they were like, "You're putting the new guy on first." They couldn't believe it because they had a regular team, you know, that had used to play the previous season. So I was a bit.
Were you known as Ranty back then?
No, I wasn't. No, but anyway, so he puts me on, and I could already tell the eyes were boring into my head from my own teammates that didn't even know them really, you know, because it was just a new team that I'd joined. Anyway, so I thought, well, I'm going to have to make this count. so I broke off and I potted 3 reds off the break, right? Boom, 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 3 reds went down. And because you're playing world rules, you had a choice. You stay on reds, or, you know, if you want to, you can change and you can go on yellows. So I chose yellows, and I dished up, potted them all. So I potted 3 reds off the break, dished up, potted all the 7 yellows, finished off on the black. Of course, you know, that was my introduction to the team, and of course, you know, I had a great time with that team. They loved me from that minute on, you know. It was like the perfect start to anyone's career in a new team kind of thing, you know.
That's banging. No, I love that. I love that story. It's cool.
Have you heard it before, team? My immediately sort of Sherlock Holmes type question would be, but now I understand, when you break up, how could you pot 3 reds but yet be on yellows? But of course you have the choice, isn't it?
Yeah, you get world rules. So world rules, you know, you could choose. I don't know if it's the same now, but it was back then. So I'm talking, what, 17 years ago?
Forget about the hustle. The hustle
maybe 20 years ago even.
Sort of a sort of a bait and a hook, right? So you have to sort of set them up. You're not as good a player as you know, you want them to think you are, and then you just, you know, you take it from there. But I never did any of that. I'm good enough pool player, but I always put the perfect environment, the perfect afternoon for me anyway. I was in a lovely pub somewhere that had a pool table and a jukebox, and you can't fucking beat that. No money involved, sort of thing. And a few drinks, of course.
Well, is it?
And for me, I smoke cannabis. I've been smoking cannabis for 30 years. And if you offer me the choice of cannabis or drink, well, it's always going to be cannabis. But yeah, if I'm ever going to have a drink, I'll definitely have a little bit of smoke as well. It wouldn't be the same otherwise.
Well, you've ruined my hustling. I've been on the scene for 5 years in Flat Earth, and I was building up to playing people to play pool. No one's going to play me at pool now. not for money anyway.
Up to playing people to smash that super chat.
Oh, don't be doing that, Pete. Nobody's giving a super chat tonight, so I wouldn't worry about that. Everyone's as skint as us, guy. Everyone's as skint as everyone else, mate. But
shout out Sam Hain.
Yeah, shout out to Sam Hain. I could have. There's lots of routes that my life could have gone down, Pete. And to be fair, I could have quite easily, I believe, turned professional at pool and been one of these guys that's on the telly playing for England and stuff like that.
Really?
Yeah. Well, I beat guys that played for England. There was a guy that was up here. He played for England. I played him in the final. of the File Championships, my first season in playing in pool, and I beat him in that. So I beat him. He dished up on the first gate. On the first break, he broke off. He dished up. I was like, right, I'm in the shit now. I think it was first to three. And yeah, I beat him 3-1.
It's one of those sort of things. If you're that good, I mean, you can still. What are you in your late 30s, early 40s? I mean, you can still sort of carry that on.
Pete, I'm 45, and yes, I still have the skills. Believe you me. I mean, I was out. I went out. When did I go out? A couple of weeks ago, and yeah, we ended up obviously in a place where they've got a pool table, and yeah, I went on that pool table. I played 10 games. I won every game. Nobody could beat me, and that's me not picking a queue up in over a year that I'd not picked a queue up, and playing with an old crappy pool queue from behind the bar, and but I used to have a breaking off queue, and I used to have a potting queue. So I had one queue that was quite heavy that could give a good smash on the break off, and then I changed to a very fine tipped queue. I think it was a 9mm on the end of it. So it was a 9mm tip, and I could get a lot of, position with the cue ball. So you could hit the cue ball exactly where you wanted it to get the position. But if I'd used the breaking cue, which I think had a 12mm tip, so you wouldn't have been able to get the same, refined positions with that. And of course, the pool cues that you get from behind the bar, they're all bent like bananas anyway, aren't they?
Playing with love, and I think we can all appreciate. Forget about all the complexity. You see, we've been told that everything is so fucking complex, and you need to be so specialized to get any sort of greater grasp on a particular area of reality. When it comes to a pool table, look how much you can learn about the basic mechanics of how material things behave in life. You know what I mean? And coming to Flat Earth, all of these things stand to us. Many times have we said, or have you heard that, well, just because the pool ball is curved, does that mean that the table itself is curved? So all of these things sort of help. And when you think about how you are so good, and how you can sort of gauge everything so perfectly. You talked about moving from a 12mm to a 9mm Q-tip. Well, I think if you can imagine, the finer the point in that Q-tip and the more accurate your placement of that interaction between the Q-tip and the ball, then the more certain you will always and can always be, all other factors accounted for, of getting that ball into the pocket based on what Rumpus always talks about, proven, established physics. It's only when we get beyond the basics, which is what we rely on, and everything we can relate to, that the difficulties arise, and this is where Rumpus difficulties arise as well, right? In terms of the greater sort of material universe. But sorry for shutting Glean up. I didn't mean to do that, but definitely love to hear more from you, Glean. You're a very interesting man.
Well, one sec before Glean jumps in. I do have a super chat from Pete Bremble, who has very kindly given £4.99 And here he goes. So I've got to shout this out. So I'm selling my soul right now. I'm selling my soul for £4.99. Here we go. So he says, "Here you go, Ranty, and I'm a Glober. But I want you to say," ready for this? "I'm Ranty and we live on a globe." So thank you very much for the super chat, Pete Remble. I do appreciate it, and I did shout your super chat exactly how you wanted it to be shouted out. So there we go.
And you didn't actually say it. You didn't actually say it as Ranty. You were just repeating what he wanted you to say. So whether you say it or
But
not,
that says a lot, doesn't it, Ranty? That he has to ask you to say that in a super chat because they can't get us. Yeah, they can't get us to say it any other time because it's not true.
Listen, I think I'm that poor right now. I'd say anything.
The troubadour.
That's what Ranty would say with the $500 super chat from Sam Hyde.
The super chat troubadour.
Oh dear me. Right, Gleam, you had something to say. You had something to say before Pete cut you off.
No, I didn't. I'm stoned.
Oh, you stoned me? Right, okay.
When am I not? When am I not?
It's okay, but you understand the point I was Gleam. This comes back to the nature of space and time. Ultimately, what you're sort of concerned with at the minute, and it does. It's not complicated, right? We've sort of been. It's not complicated in the sense that we've been ingrained, or it's been ingrained into us. All of these complicated minds that came up with these concepts are way and far away beyond our reach. But when we think about it in terms of our own experiences, our own locality, especially coming to flat, I know you're not here nor there. You're on the middle with a sore arsehole. But yeah, when we come to sort of think in these new terms regarding our own flat earth reality, but then we need to simplify it more than ever rather than complicated to get a personal grasp on what may be going on. What do you think, Liam?
Let's just say that science is finding it difficult to describe God.
Well, how do you find it to describe God?
I don't know, whatever God is.
well, that's the science taught us you.
Well, that's the thing. The reason why man's imagination in science has gone so far from physics is because they can't understand the magic. It's a mysterious universe.
Right? They deny it. They're the materialists. Everything stems from taking the focus away from the Earth center, which we all know isn't moving. Right? And who is the one to take us away from that? Aristarchus of Samos claimed that the man didn't exist. So if there's a greater tale being sort of interwoven into what we receive as information about the past, well, and the present and the future, whatever. But yeah, well, maybe it's there for us to put together the clue pieces, And well, I always say this: only when you come to flat Earth, well, it's via rejecting Aristarchus and all these materialist based original thinking, right? Well, then you can see that possibly it's all scripted. When we look at our nearest neighbor, then the moon, well, lo and behold, they have the most mysterious crater described, which glows blue, the most mysterious crater named as crater Aristarchus. So again, another clue. The only point I'm trying to make there, Glean, especially to you, is do you understand, at least in theory, how it's a sort of a stepping stone process, and it's only when you come to a certain point that you can re-evaluate everything else that has been sort of prominent in your previous picture of reality. You understand what I'm getting at?
Yeah, I mean everyone's got to have taken that step anyway to go into the flat Earth idea.
Sure.
Yeah, regardless, either way, to entertain the idea seriously.
Such an easy step, though, man, isn't it? So it can't be the final be all and end all because it's so easy. You agree?
Yeah, I still reckon jet fuel can't make them steel beams.
Hey, let me.
Yeah, but we do trust the government thing. What this channel believes is not what it guests believe. Trust me.
Let me shout out Pete Bremble, who says, this is the guy that did the super chat. So it says, nice one, Ranty. I know we disagree, but you are a nice guy, and gives a thumbs up. So listen, if there's any Globers in there that are having a good time tonight, and any Flat Earthers that are having a good time tonight, give a thumbs up. You know, it doesn't take much just to click that thumbs up. At least give the show a positive feel tonight, because it has been a good chat. I think I've enjoyed it anyway up to now.
As you mentioned, Thumb, I mentioned this before on your channel here. Thumb is at the center of your keyboard, everybody, at the very X at the center. Now, thumb backwards. Well, I'll tell you, right? It's behemoth. So you can see, say it fast, behemoth, behemoth, right? So that's thumb backwards. It's placed. Everything is put in place for us to make our way through towards, well, I guess you decide towards what, right, Liam? This is the whole point. We've been led and said at every step of the way. So where you venture to in terms of your mental capabilities, I guess, or curiosity, first of all, right? Because we've been led so far.
Well,
right?
That's the point with
that's up to you.
Yeah, well, this is the point with this this Pete Bremble. So he says he knows that we disagree, but to be honest, I think it's more a case of we all were Globers like Pete at one point. You know, this Pete Bremble. We were all Globers at one time. And then what we were able to do was we were able to just set aside all of that and look at reality in a different way, and try and see if what we were told and what we've been indoctrinated to believe is actually reality. And we found, as Flat Earthers, we found that it's not the case. What we're told and what we're presented with, some of the stories that we're told, especially with the mainstream, because they're all they're all controlled, the mainstream media and stuff. There's only a few people that basically tell them what to say on every stream that they put out, every news report and everything. It's all reported in the same way. Does it mean that it's absolutely the facts? No, it doesn't. You only need to look around and see some of the the narratives that are put out, and do they actually add up? And they don't. But of course, that's up to you, Pete Bremble. If you want to just continue believing that you live on a globe, I'm not going to try and say to you, look, just go ahead and just believe that there may be something other than that. You've got to search for that yourself. You've got to be that inquisitive mind to look into that. And I appreciate that people, just a lot of them, aren't that way out. They just don't want to do that. They just can't be bothered. They don't want to wake up.
He's a fake fuck because you value his super chats.
No. They just don't want to wake up. They don't want to. They don't want to take the red pill. They're quite happy being in the blue pill situation. If they actually just put that mindset down of being the Glober for just a few days or a few weeks, and started researching like we have, then they would have a lot of questions. They would have a lot of, maybe even get a lot of answers. And instead of mocking us, maybe just think, just take yourself out of that situation and pretend you're like a judge or something. Just pretend you're a judge without any preconceived ideas, without anybody proving guilt or innocence before you actually before you end up in court. Pretend that it is like a court session, and you're going to weigh up one side against another. And when you do that, suddenly you'll find that, okay, there's a lot of things that you need to look into in the alt media side of things. And it's not just on this, it's a whole, you could look into anything. The Black Lives Matter, stuff that's going on. You could look into that. You could look into 9/11 if you really wanted to. And then what you need to then do is think, well, what were we told at that time? Who was telling us this? What agencies, what news organizations were telling us this? And then you think to yourself, well, where do I get this information from mainly? And then it will all come back to the same source, and then it'll all click. Then it'll be like, okay, well, now if I take myself away from that and I start listening to other media outlets, sort of like the alt media, and a lot of that you'll find on YouTube or DLive or something like that, you will find these things. And you'll find different answers, and they might make sense, To me, it did anyway.
Well said, Randy.
It might make you lose your
In
family,
1945,
your
Randy,
friends.
the plane, the bomber, crashed right into the Empire State Building. Is everybody aware of that?
No.
Is that tonight? Is that recent news?
I have it. I posted it on General.
In 1945, Pete. In 1945. Hold
yes,
on.
Sir.
In 1945. Do you want to tell us about that? What happened?
Yep, it went right into the building from the 78 and 79 in between the two floors. It was a Mitchell bomber en route from Newark in fog, and it crashed right into the Empire State Building. 13 lives, including the crew, were lost, and there were burns, injuries, but they just put out the fire, rebuilt the building, and most people don't even know about it today.
Wow.
I posted
okay.
it. It's you see it.
I'll tell you what.
Nice big gap in the building.
I'll tell you what. I'll have a look at that tomorrow, and I will talk about that tomorrow.
Hang on. That's why I asked you with that recent news. I definitely heard that before, right? But
I just want to answer. Hold on, Pete.
SC Montreal.
I just want to.
Okay, I know you were joking, Pete. Yeah.
So let me. Hold on, guys. Don't get into an argument. Don't get into an argument. Right. Listen. Pete Bramble says he does have a question for any flat earther. So I would assume that's the people on the panel right now, including myself. Why do you think people lie about the shape of the Earth, and for what reason? Right. Pete Bramble. Okay, so you're asking us a question that we could answer, I suppose. But how about this? How about I set you a task? How about I set you this task of looking up Operation High Jump, right? Just research Operation High Jump, nothing else. There's plenty of information out there about it. It's a well-known operation that happened by the US military, basically. You will look into that and do your research on it, and then when you've done your research on it, then come back and ask us the same question. So that's the only thing I'm going to say to you, that you can research this yourself without having to ask us what we think. So one task, Operation High Jump. That's HIGHJUMP. Operation High Jump. Go ahead, research that, and that might start you off.
Somebody else's motive.
Yeah, but that might start.
You can give your answer. Hang on, Paige. You can give your answer. That's Randy's.
That's my answer. So let's. Sorry. You're right. So let me start off. So Peter. Sorry, Pete, but Paige was the next person to speak. So Paige, do you want to try and answer that yourself? That's my answer. But would you like to answer?
Yeah, every single person could give him their own interpretation of why they've done what they've done. But at the end of the day, we're not inside their head. We don't, we can't ever know for sure unless you talk to one of them, and then you've got to trust that they're telling you the truth. So how on earth would we ever know?
I have a good answer after Paige.
Okay, so you're up next then. Go ahead.
So now imagine you for 200 years they've been telling us the Earth is round. Solid, they know, whatever, a number of years. Now in the 60s, in the late 40s, I would say, they achieved rocketry capable of going high enough, and maybe they discovered that it's not round. So what do? You're in power now. You have two choices. Do you tell the world the truth and lose your power, or do you continue with the lie? It's all about power.
Okay, so that's three of them. So, Gleam, do you want to perhaps? I know you're not a flat earther, you're a Mac earther, but is there something that you would like to?
I'll give a good retrospect.
Let's have it, Gleam. Let's have it.
I don't think humans are good enough to be able to lie about it. I think they're so ignorant that any anomalies that they'll find, if it's a globe Earth, and that's all you've been taught and you've got the blinkers on, then you're automatically going to try and explain it within the globe Earth realm. Oh, that doesn't work because, exactly what Professor Phil and Rumpus did yesterday. Yeah, so they're always going to say, oh yeah, our physics are solid. everything's solid. The model's perfectly fine, but it all fails, and we just patch it together with imaginary stuff. Yeah, so it's humans are arrogant, ignorant, and stupid, or too stupid enough for it to need to be a lie. Put it that way.
Okay, Pete, do you have an answer for that?
I certainly do. I just hate to gleam there. Well,
No, not to gleam. I meant, do you have an answer to Pete Brembles?
This is part of my answer, please. This is part of my answer. Well, gleam, if you believe that, truly you wouldn't have spent hundreds of hours at this stage arguing these same if it's not worthwhile, worthless individuals, but that's okay. My answer to that question by Peter Bramble, is it?
Yep.
Who's prone to rambling on, but that's okay. Well, what if all comes back to our true natures? Only by looking into the abyss, only by staring into the nothingness of heliocentrism and beyond, taking us away from the earth-centered focus of our existence, right? Only by doing that, looking into it, can we come to appreciate the closeness and the up close and personal nature of our existence. At the end of the day, it's all about you, right? There's no one else around. You make sense of your reality. Some of the stories you tell, Ranty, some of the stories I tell, be ridiculous to people, ridiculous, but I'll maintain an honesty and a truthfulness to myself and make my way through this. But I say, what if there's many different actors in place, all preparing us for the great revelation, which I think is probably upon us right now. And to me, it explains why all of these characters, who otherwise must be enemies to mankind and a deserving punishment, be hanged by the neck until dead. I'll say that to my grave because you're betraying your fellow man. Right. Otherwise, well, yeah, it won't make sense to me. And I say that they're characters in a greater play with this greater revelation about our true natures and our true history coming to be revealed.
Okay, Rob, are you there, mate? Do you have a response, or are you busy working? Yeah, I think he's busy working right now. So let me just say, hold on, Pete.
Beyond measure, Rant.
So Pete Bremble says, he will research it, but at the end of the day, the shape really doesn't affect anyone's life on a day-to-day basis. Okay, I suppose, again, that all comes down to
I disagree with that too.
Yeah, exactly. So it all comes back down to the religious aspect, I suppose, of who we are, where we've come from, what that means, how you can live your life. And if you look at a lot of the agendas that are going on with the same people that promote this globe model, right? It's the only way I can say it. You will see that there is a lot of hidden agendas inside of that. So to say that it doesn't affect anyone's life on a day-to-day basis, I think you will find that it absolutely does. It's just that because you're not looking into it, you are kind of sheltered from this at this point. Once you take that red pill, and then you see what the other agendas that go in with this, you won't have that same opinion as what we do. But I'm not going to force it down your neck and say that, listen, this is everybody's journey. And you did say that you're going to look into Operation High Jump, and I appreciate that. So if you do that, then fantastic. Look into it with an open mind and understand. And when you do that, you may want to then perhaps do a little more research on something else. And then once you start digging, suddenly your mind that has been, let's say, MK Ultra'd, because that's it is
or
like
Stockholm.
Don't mention that. One. The last time MK Ultra was mentioned, someone got muted.
Well, it's like an MK Ultra experience for us all. I mean, we've been conditioned so badly for this model, this globe model. Anyway, once you release that MK Ultra programming, right, you are suddenly able. It's weird, and I mean this genuinely. you're suddenly able to
It's like a
see
light
for the first
turning
time.
on.
Yeah, you're
it's
able
like
to
your
see.
whole brain gets flooded with light, and you can see into all those dark, dusty corners.
Yeah.
And find, everything. Everything all of a sudden makes sense. You go, oh my God, that's why the world's the way it is.
Yeah.
It all makes sense.
No, but
If
hang
I
on,
may
So-
you find
suggest a
you find a
second thing to
putrid
look
mess
into.
of lies piled into a dark and
Yes.
dusty, dank corner.
So
And that's
I'm
what
not.
we're finding.
So I'm not going to tell you what the answer is, because whatever I say, if you're in the globe mindset, if I give you an answer, you're going to just like automatically just kowtow it anyway and just be like, yeah, the lunatics, idiots, blah blah, and then it's not going to make any difference. What you have to do, Pete Bramble, and I'm appealing to you specifically because you're the one engaging with me right now. I know there's over 100 people watching, but for you specifically, look up Operation High Jump, and I'm sure that SE Montreal wants to give another thing for you to look at. But for now, anyway, I'm going to say this, and I'll let SE and Montreal carry on in a minute. But my answer to you would definitely be, on a day-to-day basis, your mind will be freed from the MK Ultra indoctrination that you've had with the globe, and once that happens, you will see these other effects on our day-to-day life in a whole different way. So I'm not gonna hit you over the head with it, but SE Montreal, you have something to add to that.
Let me just say, it could go the other way around for Pete Bramble, and he sort of snapping out of the MK Ultra, and then remembering when he was younger, and a golf ball was shoved up his ass on a regular basis to prepare himself for the globe indoctrination.
Oh, Pete!
Come on, Pete, man.
Really?
Goodness.
Right, SE Montreal.
Small. I could have started off with a baseball or a beach ball or something.
Right, SE Montreal. Did you have something to add to the Operation High Jump?
Oh, definitely. Operation High Jump is a very good place to start. Definitely. Also, once you're done with that, you might want to have a look at motion, because motion is a dead giveaway. What I mean by that is, the model that they preach to us, they say that we're traveling right now at 4 million miles an hour approximately, at 11 different vectors. Now you might want to ask yourself, what's the fastest you've ever been, like on a plane, 500 miles an hour, on a fast car, on a train? You might want to look into motion. That's my advice.
Okay, and one other that I would like to throw in the mix as well would be Operation Fishbowl.
Yeah,
so,
I was going to say Operation Dominic.
And Operation Dominic.
Because Dominic actually means of the Lord. It was Operation Fishbowl within Operation Dominic. So it was Fishbowl of the Lord. So, they're trying to blow a hole in the fishbowl of the Lord. What the?
Okay, so let me just hold on, Pete. Don't say anything ridiculous, right?
Everything sounds naughty to you, Pete.
SpaceX.
One sec.
You can't say SpaceX.
One sec. He's got me saying it now. 1 sec. I said 1 sec. I said 1 sec. I meant to say 1 sec. He's got me at it. Right, I'm going to take him off mute. Right, hopefully he's calmed down.
Who are ranting?
Right. So Pete says something quite interesting. He says he will look into Operation High Jump, and afterwards he may come on to my show and make a response if I would invite him. Right. So what I'm going to do now, Pete, is I'm going to paste a link right now to my Discord. So all you have to do is click the link, and you can join my Discord, which means that you can have access to all the chat that we have, and you can even join the show channel whenever I'm live. We don't bite. You're welcome to come in and as long as you're civil and just you can come in and debate. It's fine. Just don't be a twat. There are people that are in there that are twats, right? But don't be a twat, right? Seriously.
And don't just sit there screaming, shut up, twat.
But there's the link. So there's my link, right? So if you want to join the Discord, you can do that. You can involve yourself with all the different discussions that we've got going on. We've got let's see, we've got gossip, we've got Coriolis, sunsets, refraction, gas pressure, space, NASA, show topics, beef, experiments, light, show revamp improvements, show videos only, and junk conversation. So that's you can have your basic junk conversation, and there's a whole host of different things that you can come in and have a chat with different people about. And also, of course, you've got the general chat as well to just get stuck in there and join the show whenever you feel like it. So you're more than welcome to join. And, you know, people aren't going to hate on you for having an opinion. But, you know, if you've looked into this and you've got a serious response and you've looked up Operation High Jump and you want to come in and maybe offer an alternative to what you've been led to believe what happened there, then we're welcome to understand, you know, welcome to have you in. By all means, you can come in anytime. So there's the offer. The Discord link is out there, and that goes for anybody that's listening right now. Check the chat. There's a Discord link right now to join my Discord. I believe
Yeah,
it's only
Peter, jump in.
I believe it's only in use for about an hour or so. I think after, you know, a certain period of time it stops being, you know, accessible. So if you want to join the Discord, now's the time. Click that link, join the Discord, dead simple, and then you can join the panel whenever you want. We're actually in the show channel right now, in the voice channels, so dead easy. So knock yourself out, do your research, come in, debate us. We're all ready and welcome.
Jump in, Peter. And Ranty, about last night's show with Rumpus, and Gleam is here. Gleam, isn't it amazing the arguments that they take? Well, let me sum up Rumpus's argument, right? And you can comment on it. Well, Newton and Einstein were correct. They never sort of took any account of a greater sort of universe or dark matter, but their theories were correct because later on the theories were found to be validated because the theories were incorrect. There was an imbalance in the greater equations, so dark matter was incorporated into the equations to balance them out. So therefore, because the equations balance out, at the end, and even though we can't show in any tangible way dark matter whatsoever, it's not to be found outside the philosophical realm. Well, Newton and subsequently Einstein and their models and their theories are validated.
Pete, you've been hitting the mushrooms tonight. For sure, you've been hitting the mushrooms.
Okay, let's hear. Hold on, Pete.
That was perfectly cool.
Don't make me mute you again, mate. Listen, SE Montreal, you have an objection to what Pete just said, so go ahead.
Where do you want me to start, Randy?
Take your time, mate. Listen, Pete gets a lot of airtime here, so he's just had a minute worth of things that you disagree with. So if you have a disagreement, fire away.
You know, he said so many things I forgot. Like, if you can just give me a recap, Pete, because you said so many things there.
Okay, no worries. But what did you come in? You come in and said something. You interrupted and said something while I was talking. Word salad, sort of. Was that the vibe?
Yeah, you were talking a whole bunch of stuff.
Let me ask Gleam if Gleam is here. Were you listening, Gleam? Did you understand what I was talking about?
Yeah, so to say, it was you were summarising Rumpus's argument, not making an argument yourself.
And was it to the point as well?
Well, the whole thing was, to summarise, it was science is saying God did it when their theories fail. They've just said, well, yeah, we'll just make up something.
But Rumpus's point...
Oh, I got it now. The dark matter. Sorry.
Yeah.
That's what I got it now. Thank you, Gleam.
My point was Rumpus's impossible position that he validated Einstein and Newton before him, their theories, saying that they were correct all along.
That's what I objected to. I objected to you saying Einstein and Newton's theories were correct, and then you switched over to dark matter. And then you said dark matter is philosophical.
What I'm talking about, SE Montreal, is Rumpus's argument. He validated, or he claimed that these theories of Newton and Einstein were validated, even though they were incorrect, And in order to balance the equations, that this dark matter concept had to be introduced. And therefore, because they did balance the equations, depending on what percentage you sort of incorporated them into the mathematical workings, because they could do it mathematically, that validated the original theories. This is my whole
Okay, I
point.
misunderstood you, Pete. I thought you were agreeing with him, but you were saying what
No.
Rumpus was saying. My bad. I
Right.
apologize.
That
I
was from last
apologize.
night. I probably slipped that in too quickly when I said, just to recap on last night, what I
I
heard
thought you lost
not
it there. I
live.
thought you were agreeing with that. My bad.
No,
My bad.
no. But look, you can see the position there, right? So in other words, any future problems, you can just increase or decrease the percentage dark matter, dark energy in the universe to account and match up with or equate with the original
Yeah,
theories.
yeah. If I may, Pete, the
Therefore
correct
making them
way,
correct.
if I may, the correct thing to say is Newton screwed it up. Einstein screwed it up. So they made up dark matter to cover up their bull and plain street talk. That's what happened.
No,
Now
that's
maybe
not the way
Gleam
it is, man.
could say it more eloquently than me with
That'll do.
numbers and
No, but that's not the way it
That'll
is,
do.
though, SE Montreal, and you should have come beyond that 19 years later from 9/11.
I'd like to hear Gleam's opinion if you don't
Let me
mind,
just
Pete.
say, I know you would, so let me just finish what
That'll
I'm saying.
do.
There's no
There we
hurry
go.
here. Let me just finish that. The truth is always known. You can dump it all out as bullshit and palaver. The farce is not to be thrown out completely, because we understand, or we can come to understand, that the lie is built on the truth, and the truth is being revealed for specific reasons, at least possibly or potentially. So off you go, Lee.
Was just I'll agree with it all. It's exactly that. It is even science says it. Lawrence Krauss says it. A lot of people say it. It's they've basically had to make up something, and they're not proud of it. They're not proud of it. Definitely, they say it's in crisis mode because they can't explain it. That is their exact word. If you put cosmology in crisis into Google, you see how many documents come back.
But Gleam, come on, Gleam. It's no coincidence that space-time, that whole concept, equates to ether. It's no
Bull,
coincidence.
it's all bull, Pete. Listen to their lectures, like Gleam said. You're gonna laugh at these guys. Listen to Krauss and Green, and
I've done all that, man.
It's comical, bro. It's comical.
Theorizing regarding space-time equates mathematically to ether. Now, we know that whatever they have to present is tainted, right? Now, again, you can call it bull and throw it out, but this equation is not coincidence. If there's a greater story that's known from the outset, SC Montreal, well, then is it there for us to read? Are these people just actors on the stage? Right.
No,
So let me ask you,
getting
what do you think
paid
of
good
ether?
money. They're getting paid good money, and they have to come up with answers. People want answers, but there's certain things that we just don't know. It's as simple as that.
How do you know what you don't know? What do you know about what others don't know?
Do you know about the Big Bang?
That's
What's the
fair
Big
enough.
Bang, Pete?
Well, you tell me what it isn't. I
I'm
can give
asking
you
you
an
a
answer to that,
question.
actually. I
Pete,
can
je
definitely
suis
give you an answer
dodo.
to
What
that.
is the Big Bang? How did the
Right.
Big Bang happen?
Okay.
Who
You asked
started
me a
it?
direct question, and I'll ask you for an answer to this exact same question. My answer is it's all metaphor. The Big Bang references the big fuck. When your father and mother came together and the sperm met the egg and your material universe began. That's where Aristarchus of Samos, with he's taken away the focus from the earth, right, moving it to the sun center, a heliocentric model, and a greater Big Bang material only model of the universe and our existence, led us astray. It only encouraged us to consider the one, taking away the spiritual nature, or the zero, the uncountable, from our existence. And I say, right, it's purposeful, because only by looking into the one, which infinity is just a series of ones, but don't forget, infinity is the twisted zero. So everything must stem from this immaterial aspect to us. And I say that has been revealed. And all the absurdity, all the farcity, if that's a word, of the current paradigm is being exposed, and people like Lawrence Krauss, deGrasse Tyson, all of them, they're all playing their part in exposing slowly but surely, gradually, drip by drip, to humanity that it's all a farce. And here's the catch: the wonder is that the real reality that we're all a part of is wondrous beyond measure, and we're just being prepared for it. And my final thing would be to say, I'm 48. When I think in terms of Noah or Methuselah or Adam or something, who are living to 900 years, I'm only a young fucking uh, ankle snapper, if you call it like that. One
You're
thing
still a
that coming
pup. You're
back,
still a pup, Pete.
well, exactly, and let me just
How
finally
old are
say,
you, Pete?
coming back
How
to
old are you, Pete? Pete, how old are you?
zero, coming back to
Pete, how
realize
old are you?
that there's a greater nature to us. I've inherited eternity, SE Montreal, and the way I reckon it, life has to be about something.
Pete, how old are you?
48 years. 48, man. So 48 short years coming to these realizations that we're considering right now. Our ancestors, your grandfather didn't consider these, Ranty, because they had no means to. If they wanted to further their education, they'd have to go to the local library or rely on local sort of talk, which is valuable enough in itself. But no way did they have at their fingertips the amount of information that we are exposed to. And let me just say as well, I hold dearly now at this stage, more dearly than ever, even looking at the flowers, the truth is contained within all of the things, because we're greater than the material. It just depends on us with the possibility of developing the true eyes to see.
Shout
That's
out
what I
to
genuinely.
Bill G, who says he's going for his 6th beer of the evening. Well done, Bill.
He hasn't even left the super chat yet. He's dropping 50s and Nathans by the new time, Ranty. The bollocks!
Listen, Bill G has an affinity with Nathan. I understand that. Bill G is one of his favourite supporters. Well, Bill G is one of Nathan's favourite supporters. He doesn't support this show, but I enjoy him in the chat anyway, so it's all good.
Yeah.
And he's had 6 beers, which is ace. So he's enjoying the show, and he's stayed. Look, he's been here with the first half an hour, so it's all good. Nobody's.
Hey, what's his name? Bill G. Bill G, say something profound about the dodo.
Yeah, say something really profound.
Ranty will read it out.
Don't give the middle finger.
Hey, listen, God divided gives you G-O-D-O-D, dodo backwards.
Pete, you and the dodo, I mean, right, it's time to explain yourself, right?
Man,
in words,
amazing
no, listen,
ever.
in words that us mere mortals can understand, right? Which basically means
please, Pete, please.
Not cryptic, not cryptic at all.
Okay.
You have to explain it in English.
Okay.
Not
English, right?
Okay. So you set me a challenge, right? And okay, give me 1 minute. Right? I'll do my very best. Give me 1 minute.
That means
honestly,
10. Sit down, everybody. Hunker down.
Give me 1 minute. I'll do my very best to summate it. I think I can do it easily, right? Right. When we come to question the nature of our reality, we're led to flat Earth, right? The very first map that's presented to us is Gleason's map. When you do rotate the Gleason's map upside down and put Australia at the bottom and imagine some of the water drained out, like the Gulf of Mexico, the Philippines, the Mediterranean, a certain bird jumps out. So this bird turns out to be the dodo bird. We all think the dodo bird was the dumb bird who was wiped out from existence because of the cruelty and avarice of mankind, right? No, the dodo bird never existed. So it's a symbol. So getting to that point is you have to get the flat earth first of all, right? So now moving on from that, right? So it first of all represents the changing face of the land post-destruction. As I said, when you think about draining some of the water away, we understand that the earth is in an unnatural state. So there has been some sort of collapse, inundation, some sort of destruction. When you cut a tree, you get a flat surface, right? I say the dodo bird represents this changing face of the land, post-destruction, felling, decapitation of the tree of life, which is Aristarchus. And we live on top of that as it juts out above the invading waters. Let me just say, today is 9/11/2020, which is the feast day of St. John the Baptist, or the beheading or decollation of St. John the Baptist. Would you believe it? the decapping, the decapitation, right? All significant in a greater sense. Jesus is the sun because the sun emanated, right, from the north center of the heartwood, where beforehand the tree was in place. The dodo represents, as I said, the changing face of the land as we draw it out, post destruction, but also, more importantly, the divided state of us, male from female and self from self. This is the spiral of life, and this is how we're divided. This is what the yin yang represents. And ultimately, yeah, the dodo being the greatest symbol. Let me just say, beyond the dodo, well, how did the dodo come about? Because of the destruction of the tree of life. And what is that tree? Well, Aristarchus. And that's it. That's not too bad.
I understood everything. How about you, Ranty?
Coherent enough.
Still struggling.
all of the skylights are reflections then of this emanating tree at the center. This is what we remember at Christmas time when we get the cut tree and place it on the X, and it artificially lights up with a big star at the top. All stars are Aristarchus, a reflective pattern against this watery barrier above, the divide between Earth and what is beyond. Well, what is beyond? The most obvious answer is saline waters beyond. This is what the Earth's oceans are, right? So what's most pertinent is the mirror sky. Mirror sky. So in terms of any reflections, the nature of the reflective plane is vital, because we've all been into the house of mirrors, right? Where you can look any sort of. Let me just say this. Actually, no, actually, I don't want to go on too long. But I thought of a brilliant analogy, gleam, etc. I thought of a brilliant analogy about what we're seeing with the moon. When everything looks so separate, all of these different craters, these different aspects of the moon, what we're looking at, right? It's like a tree. If you think of a tree, a little, average type tree in your backyard or whatever, and you think of this, the reflective or the shade pattern of the sun, and all you're exposed to is the shading pattern. So as the sun moves around, you get many different reflective patterns, and they're all jumbled up together, and that's all you can look at. So when you're asked to um, um, uh, sort of come to terms with what's going on, you haven't got the tree to reckon with. So everything looks incoherent and jumbled, and incapable of being resolved. So yeah, it's only when you see the tree and the sun is in place casting the different shadows that you can piece everything together, and everything can fit together exactly. And that's what I say is happening with the moon. All the craters are one crater. The moon is a direct reflection of the sun, right? Because they're the same size, which is a focal point reflection of the main emanating reflective source, which is Polaris. All revolves around Polaris. And what's in a name? Everything is in a fucking name. Every single thing is in a name. Even your own name. Even your own God-given name is significant once you learn how to see into it. But Polaris, yeah, it's the primary reflection of the heart core center of the tree of life at the north center, emanating off the barrier above, and all revolves around that. And as that result revolves around little dots, its focal reflection, the sun, revolves around a greater circle, And well, let me just say this: solar system as we know it then are just reflections of reflections based on the sun, right? The greater backdrop is the greater sort of emanating source center. And let me just say one more thing: everything is fractal. So just as we live on the back of Aristarchus, right? It's the core of Aristarchus which is reflecting above as well. So as above, so below. And last thing as well, this, because we're in a broken system, right? These energies are holding back the barrier, and the ether are these life force energies that are reactionary forces to the actionary forces that are holding back these waters beyond. And the slack was taken up before by the desert area trees, which are all cut down, right? The tributaries. And finally, 9/11 to 2020. This is what I say: all the tall steel structure towers now, they're ray guns from below to above, and the barrier is going to be reinflated. The pressure is going to be lifted in a sense. Gravity is going to be alleviated, and well, we're in for, well, at least potentially, a wondrous future of awakening and awareness. So cheers for listening, honestly, if I'm still being heard.
Je ne comprends pas. Can you repeat that? Sorry, I missed it.
I'll meet you in Barbara. That's Randy's pronunciation of
Je compris tout. Arrête.
Right. Well, that's my story anyway, and you know, I've known for the longest of time. No one is sort of stick. You have to come to flat Earth to develop the story. You know what I mean?
Okay, okay, Pete.
You know
you always get that in. You always get your.
It's true, Randy. You have to admit it's true.
Listen, you always get your. You've got your ramble on. You know, you've got this ramble that you're going through.
Well,
and,
maybe I be ramble.
And he's like, yeah, okay, he's starting on that ramble again. Here we go. We're all going to have to be silent now for the next 90 seconds whilst he says the same thing over and over.
No, not just the same thing. You've got to let him say that one more thing.
Aristarchus.
Wow.
Shout out to Bill G, who says he has never super chatted Nathan, and he has never super chatted anyone. There you go. So you were wrong.
What?
You were wrong, Pete.
There's another Bill there who definitely super chats Nathan Oakley. Come on. Well, sorry about that, Bill.
There you go.
But what did he write anything about the dodo? If it's the same dodo,
see, that's a real man.
Then he definitely has given super chats. I've heard Nathan Oakley call him out, sure.
It might be another Bill. You know, maybe you're getting confused with a different Bill. Different Bill. Could be another Bill.
I thought you knew Bill G. There's sort of plenty of regulars around.
Oh well, yeah, lots of Bills. There's lots of Petes as well. There was a Pete in before he was in the chat. He's going to look into Operation. Thank God.
Okay, it only takes one. If only one should awaken. I don't mean that in any pompous way.
Yeah. Oh, Bill G says I have only he's only super chatted one person, and that was Arwin. I'll send you the same thing. Check your email. Okay, interesting. Cryptic, but I'll have a look. Thank you, Bill. Anyway, okay. We'll see.
Bill. And let me just say, Bill, sorry about that if I wronged you there, but you're definitely the Bill G who comes up with the dodo code. Some of them are very good. So you're definitely that Bill G, right? That's why I asked you for a sort of a dodo reference for Randy to read out.
Awesome.
I think that's what got started on the dodo story.
Yeah. I'm gonna share this. I'm gonna share this with you guys. So, so I got this email through from Bill G. Check the show channel. Click my live stream. Tell me what you think of that one.
That's class. No, that's a super chat.
That is an extra special super chat. I tell you what, I'm going to start my next show tomorrow with this very, very, very image. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to promote the show with this.
Nice, Bill.
Let me see this. I have to see this. It's not going on Discord.
It's on. I'm live, mate. Click the live icon on me.
Yeah, what is it? It says super chat.
Yes, it does. Oh, that's funny. Yeah. Thanks very much, Bill G.
I'm not getting that.
Oh, how are you not getting it, Pete? Look on the live stream then. You'll see it on
following the live stream text chat. Okay.
Yeah, that was pretty good. I like that. That's epic.
So
epic
Gs.
trolling. Epic trolling.
There's two Bill G's. Okay.
All right. Okay. That's epic trolling. I like that.
I'll just refer to you as Bill G, and the other guy I'll refer to as Bill G.
Bill G and Bill G. Two Bill G's.
Two Bill G's.
Right, on this 9/11 day, I'm going to round up, guys, because I'm getting a bit tired now too. So I'm going to go down the list. I'm going to do some roundup. So let's start with Gleam. Do you want to do your final thoughts there, mate?
Yeah, final thoughts. Just have a look in comment section. Yesterday's video, exactly what I said on the tin. I said to Rumpus, "You just lied earlier. Go back and rewind." And he said, "No, you can rewind it. I didn't lie." I've time-stamped exactly where he's been caught in 2 lies. Rumpus, you lying little brat bag. Salute Ranty. Salute everyone on the panel. Oneness.
Awesome. Pete, you're next up. Final thoughts, mate. Silent.
Well, Jesus, leave me go to the end anyway, Ranty. Go to everyone else, because Jesus.
Okay. Paige, your final thoughts then, please. Paige is away as well. Rakia Life, your final thoughts, please.
My final thoughts is I like Pete better when he's drunk.
You like Pete better when he's drunk, right? Good stuff. Rob, if you're there, do you want to do your final thoughts? I guess you must be working. Right, SE Montreal.
Yes, sir. Great show, Ranty. On the 9/11 thing, I want to say a quick story. I used to watch this show with his family. They used to do demolitions before the 9/11 happened, and I watched just about every episode, and I know what it takes. They drill I don't know how many thousands of holes precisely on the beams just to make the building fall, and it has to be split second, like fractions of a second, for it to fall correctly, like free fall. There is no way. I remember watching them. I remember it like it was yesterday, watching those buildings fall. There is absolutely no way those buildings fell from a plane hitting that building and free fall like that. Absolutely zero way. That's my opinion. And then there's building 7. That's magic. So
Okay, thank you, SE Montreal. But here on the Ranty Flat Earth channel, we don't agree with that. We are definitely mainstream media on this. We are, well, myself actually believe 100% that the buildings fell exactly as told. You know, planes struck the building, the fires destroyed the infrastructure, it worked its way down the shafts, destroying everything on the way down, and they fell in their own footprint. And it just so happened that the office fires in Building 7 also caused the damage that was able to be to bring that building down too, because that's what the mainstream tell me, and I believe that because I am a mainstream believer.
I almost fell off the chair there.
Pete, final thoughts, please.
Okay, on this special day, let me sum it up. Right, we were never meant to take the literal. Everything is symbolic. 9/11 signified two becoming one again, which reflects on you. What was presented as live was pre-recorded. It was the greatest blockbuster movie of our times, 102 minutes long. And the soundtrack, which every good movie has a soundtrack, was Kid A by Radiohead, which was released in 2000, final song number 10, motion picture soundtrack. And I will leave you on this, just to tie you in a cryptic way. The lead singer of Radiohead, Thom Yorke, right, New York, well, it turns out he was nicknamed Dodo as a youngster. So on that note,
I do know that.
Thanks for the open conversation. It's fascinating, Gleam. I could talk a lot more about that.
He's got a weird story too.
Right, guys. Well, I'm going to round up. So I'm going to pop myself.
I'm
going to pop myself on mute. I'll be back with you guys in a minute, and I'm going to round up the show. So here we go. Right, guys, that was an awesome show. Hopefully you got to see a different side of the panelists, myself maybe. We talked about some things that were definitely off topic that we would normally talk about. And yeah, I mean, yeah, just an interesting conversation all around. I enjoy that kind of conversation where you talk about these things, you know, astral projection and all this afterlife stuff. So, you know, maybe we'll talk about that again, who knows. It's not something that I'd always talk about, but I definitely have talked about it several times in the past. So if you've been around and followed my story, you will already know that those stories have already been out there and circulating anyway. So it's not like it's anything new for me, or nothing that I'm afraid of talking about, because it definitely happened, at least to me. So anyway, that was a great show. I will be back tomorrow. I'll do another one, and I will absolutely. Let's see. I will put. I am definitely going to do that. Oh, I've lost it. Oh no, I haven't. There it is. Right. So I'm going to start the show tomorrow. I'm going to do the show, and I'm definitely going to do that as the main image to the show because I find it hilarious. So thank you, Bilger. You definitely gave me a big smile with that. In the meantime, right? Okay. Apparently. So if you guys want to have more of this conversation or listen to some kind of debate, it would appear that there is a flat earther debating over on Fight the Flat Earth. Now, we all know what it's like over there. He tends to bring in not the best debaters, but we shall see. Maybe we'll be met by, a flat earther that's able to hold their own, if not, completely annihilate anything that Fight the Flat Earth wants to put out. So maybe see you over there. I'm going to tune in and have a little listen to that before I go to bed. I wouldn't hold your breath though. Unfortunately, the talent he has over there is somewhat lacking. For instance, he wouldn't probably debate anybody that's on this panel. But there we go. Right, that'll do for tonight, guys. Thank you, Brandon Toy, for the last minute super chat of $4.99, who says 9/11 was whatever kind of job CNN says it was. Indeed it was. And yes, thank you. You've definitely topped up the super chat tonight, so I feel great about that. So hopefully we will continue on this vein and people will support the show. All the links are in the description if you do want to support the show in any way, shape or form. Of course, there's no there's no obligation to do that, but if you do feel like doing it, great. We're not going to hold that against you. I would certainly enjoy your memberships or your Patreonage or even a PayPal donation if you so feel. Back tomorrow with another Chit Chat show. Let's see what happens. Maybe get some Globers on to have a little debate. That would be kind of cool. And of course, if anybody has any questions or anything like that, you can email me at ranty@rantyflatearth.com. I always answer my emails back, and if you've got something interesting to talk about, I'll even put a video together and put it out there and publish it as a standalone video, because quite often you have this footage and you don't want to put it out on your own channel for some reason, which is fine. I'll do it for you. So by all means, give a thumbs up, and subscribe if you haven't already. Subscribe, and let's hope we can keep this thing going and get the truth out to everybody. And everybody have a good night, everybody enjoy themselves, and I definitely will see you in the next one. See you tomorrow. Take care.